to support the First Missionary Baptist Church. Would you give our invocation, please, sir? Thank you.
At First Missionary Baptist Church, we like opening our services or our meetings with scriptural prayers. In the 19th Psalm, the 14th verse, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. And the 119th Psalm, the 133rd verse says, order my steps in thy word, and that not any iniquity have dominion over me. Lord, hear our prayer.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Supervisor Jones, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to start with consider a class claim filed by James Polk in the amount of $366 payable to Runaway Glass. Is Mr. Polk here? No, he is. I saw him. Would you come up and state your name and address for the record? To the podium, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is James Polk, and I live at 14120 Wolf Run Boulevard, Gulfport, Mississippi, 39503.
So, sir, can you tell us what happened?
Oh, yes. On Monday, the 13th of September, I was leaving home to go and help my son-in-law do some grass cutting and weeding. And when you come out of my neighborhood, you turn right and to go to Nico's grocery store to purchase fuel. And as soon as you turn right, there's Sandy Creek Bridge. And as I was going across the bridge, I could see that there had to be boards out because grass was on both sides of the street. So as I proceeded to go in the westerly direction, I could see that there was 3 tractors cutting on the same side of the road. And I could see what they were doing. They were trying to get the best bang for their buck as they went east. So it was a big tractor, and then it was a backhoe, and another big tractor that was cutting closer to the bottom of the ditch. But the small tractor with the backhoe didn't seem to have a safety device, the chains that was hanging in the front. So as I proceeded past them, a stone of some sort, some type of projectile, hit the side of my truck. And I stopped to see what it was, and it was a broken window. And I reported it to the people that was on the streets. And they told me what to do, and here I am here today.
Thank you. Is Neil Resch in? Mr. Resch, so did you speak to Mr. Polk and were signs out and
I
did you
did.
notice the safety?
The incident occurred on Monday, which Tom, who normally would take the report, was out of town. I was covering for him, but I had to get the call on Friday. Friday morning, I went to Mr. Polk's residence and talked to him about it. I also talked to Edmund about it, and Edmund told me that they had signs out, and there was a sign at Wolf River Road and Cable Bridge Road going for westbound traffic, and one up by Nico's at Cable Bridge and Vidalia. Okay, so when talking to Mr. Polk here, when he came out of Wolf Run Boulevard, that intersection is about 200 feet east of the east side of the bridge. When he turned, he may have seen the grass. He didn't tell me that when I spoke to him in his house. But when he was on the bridge and saw the tractors, he was already committed. He couldn't turn around, and he wouldn't have seen the sign at Wolf River Road and Cable Bridge. So he was already committed to that, and you can't turn around on the west side of the bridge because the embankment's so high.
Okay.
So he wouldn't have seen it.
He wouldn't have seen the sign where he came out on the thing from his subdivision.
So the claim is for, I'm sorry.
What about the equipment?
Did you, yeah.
Safety device on the equipment?
I wasn't able to view that because I took the report 4 days after the incident occurred. I've just talked to Edmund and some of the workers on the phone, and they were cutting grass there. the worker did on the tractor say that the rock flew out from the tractor, hit the window of his car because he was right beside him. And it was the driver's side window, the rear of the SUV.
Okay, what's the board's?
That's from our
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would make a motion to pay for it since the safety officer is saying there's no way he could have seen that sign. So I'm not gonna say negligence exactly, but perhaps.
It has to be negligence now, so let's don't,
Okay,
don't say
well,
it's not negligence.
well,
Second, it's your second discussion.
The signs are probably not an issue because he actually saw the tractors, but the
Safety.
not having the safety chains on there is an issue, and he says he saw they didn't have them. If the board found that was neglect, then the board is authorized to pay the claim.
And we can't prove otherwise, so we have a motion and a second to pay the claim. Any further discussion?
Have you had the windshield fixed already, or?
No.
I would recommend to the board that with Mr. Polk's permission, that have him go to, I think you have an estimate for Dunaway, is that where you're gonna fix it?
Yes.
He's got two.
You got two?
So where are you gonna fix it, Dunaway's or?
Dunaway's.
Okay.
That was the lower.
Have done, if the county were to pay them directly, then we would not have to pay the sales tax. So
Correct.
once authorized to be paid directly, then somebody can contact Dunaway's and tell them to bring it to the county will pay. Save a few dollars.
So instead of 366, it'll be 300 and, oh, hold on,
It's
sorry.
$366 without the tax.
Okay, so it would be $366. The other quote from Safe Light was $481.
He's chosen the lesser of the two, which is good.
Correct. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
Sam, you may have to call Dunaway's to explain to them, bill the county directly.
Get with the county administrator, and we're gonna go ahead and tell them to fix your windshield,
All right,
and we'll pay them directly.
all right.
Okay,
Do
thank
I
you, sir.
talk to her? Okay.
Yes.
Man, I hadn't seen you in such a long time.
Got older and fatter, I'm sorry.
Pam, would you give him your contact info, please? Okay, item number 2. This is still public comment. Each of these next 2 items will be one speaker each, 3 minutes is the tops that you can speak. So let's recognize, we'll start with Mr. Jeffrey Hulam as he discusses the request to remove the Confederate statue from the Harrison County Courthouse in Gulfport. Ms. Renee Wiggins, would you please come up here? Hang on just a second. Thank you for coming. And start our clock for us, and then we'll have Mr. Wallace Mason as he discusses his objection to removing the statue. So go ahead, thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone on the board, attorney, sheriff. It's nice for you all to allow us to come and speak in this important issue. We don't start off with the law. Before I start the law, I want to make a quote by Robert E. Lee, all right, which is one of our Army bases members. Robert E. Lee stated, "It is wrong to maintain and keep a friend if you have to do wrong by getting that friend." And inside of that, in the state of Mississippi in 2004, the law states no monument shall be removed, replaced, or torn down unless we find a more suitable place for it. We have scoured this county. Y'all have did y'all due diligence to check the law. But the most important and proper place for our monument today, not to be torn down, is to be removed and relocated to one, our county library on Old Highway 49 is an appropriate place for it. They can look at the monument, they can go inside, they can interpret the history, and they also can contextualize and compartmentalize why the monument was placed there with the Confederate battle emblem that's still on there. Second place, the county has property at the old cemetery on Highway 53. The monument can be moved there in a more suitable place because we have a county in northern Mississippi who relocated a monument to a county-owned cemetery where the Confederate and Union soldiers were laid to rest to honor the dead. Third thing, the county can think about warehousing the monument until a more suitable place is being found. I don't think that's the right thing because we got hate versus hate. You should not take someone's heritage away from them because some people feel that there's hate. But we must make sure that everybody is in the right place for a suitable place. This is a place of justice. No person or no personnel shall feel inferior when they're coming to a place where they're seeking justice under the United States flag, the United States of America. And lastly, I will tell you, the benefit and growth we having right now, the largest car show in the nation is down here. And upon our nation, that brings revenue. We are the beacon of hope and the beacon of life for the state of Mississippi. We are the most diverse county, and we are the county that makes sure everything goes for all people, not just a select few. So on knowing that, like I say, we done talked about the facts, we done talked about the laws, and we talked about the importance of economical value. And my last and my closing, I would say this, and I'm gonna close it out with Stonewall Jackson. Stonewall Jackson says on his dying bed, after he was shot by his own people, after they couldn't see the fog of war, he said, let's cross the river and take that long nap under that shade tree. That shade tree is symbolized as apple trees. And in that midst, you could break it down and say, he was saying, let him go back to his youth, his childhood days, when everybody was treated and everything went in the way of a good art and discipline. Thanks for your time.
Mr. Hoolan, I'm sorry. I should have asked you sooner. Would you state your name and address for the record?
My name is Jeffrey Holden III, 3601 Oak Avenue, Gulfport, Mississippi. Retired U.S. Army Major, 22 years service. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service. Okay, number 3, recognize Wallace Mason as he discusses his objection to removing the Confederate statue from Harrison County Courthouse in Gulfport. Mr. Mason, would you state your name and address for the
My name
record?
is Wallace Mason, 415 Garden Street, Gulfport, Mississippi.
Thank you. Same rules, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Okay, I thank the board for allowing me to speak on behalf of the Confederate Monument. And we've how many times we've had to come here and do the same thing. We've heard that the monument stands for slavery, for racism, for white supremacy, everything that they can think of to have the monument removed. Y'all checked out the cemetery, well, the cemetery's way out of place. And if you read the law, it doesn't state, it states a little bit differently about protection of the monument. You have to find, if you're gonna find a place for it to go, you have to have a more suitable place. And it also states that it wouldn't be the cemetery or any place like that. I think y'all did research on that. I believe your attorney, Hallman, I believe y'all researched this out the last time we was here. I wanna focus on a couple things. I already mentioned they've claimed rape offensive to people. My favorite thing is that it kept people from coming into the courthouse, which we know is untrue. White supremacy, but what does the monument really stand for? When it was dedicated in 1911, it was dedicated in memory of the Confederate dead. On the monument, that's what it states. The Confederate battle flag that's on it is a soldier's flag. That's what it was in 1862, and that's what it represents today. You can't take it and change it, although people have tried to do that. And the third thing about the law, which we've gone over this, I don't think I have to read the law to everybody because we've gone over it a number of times. But the one thing you said about storage, I talked to the Attorney General's office about that, and they sent me a copy that the monument can't be put in storage according to this law. That's coming from the Attorney General's office. So putting it in storage is not what's going to happen to this monument. I want to ask the board to keep the monument on the courthouse grounds because that's where it belongs. It doesn't affect anybody. It doesn't cause anybody to not come to the courthouse. It's not racist. It doesn't stand for that. It never has. The dollars, when they put it up, they had one thing in mind, and that was the Confederate soldier dead. And the Confederate soldier is American. They received a pension after the war. They were American. So I'm asking this board to vote against any removal right now of the Confederate statue. Leave it on the courthouse grounds. It's not going to affect anybody coming in here. The law states about what you can do with monuments from the Revolutionary War all up to the Gulf War. I want to reference one more thing. Let's do that time. Tennessee, Alabama, South Carolina, along with Mississippi have the same law. South Carolina is called the Heritage Act. It describes from Revolutionary War on up. They were taken to court. They were sued just recently. It came back from the state Supreme Court in favor of the Heritage Act. It said it was constitutional and it couldn't be, it was not, it was going to stand as a law. So South Carolina won that in the Supreme Court. So the law is the same.
Thank you, sir.
Thank the board.
take this under advisement and move on to item number 4. Recognize Pat Jefferson and Greg Tisdale, Road Department employees, for their outstanding service to Harrison County and its citizens. We have a resolution from the Harrison County Board of Supervisors. We need a motion.
Motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carried. I'm gonna ask Supervisor Powers if she would read the resolutions and ask the gentleman to come up front. Now, I understand the families here of the gentlemen,
Yeah,
so,
come on.
yeah, come on.
And this is my pleasure. These are guys from my work center. Y'all can come closer. You know I'm shy, so I have to speak softly. Resolution recognizing Pat Jefferson and Greg Tisdale for their outstanding service to Harrison County and its citizens. Whereas Pat Jefferson and Greg Tisdale are valued employees of Harrison County's District 2 Road Department. Whereas on July 14th, 2021, these men were performing routine maintenance work on County Farm Road when they observed Mr. Jerry Gartman laying in his yard unresponsive, having fallen on his porch and breaking his hip the night before. Whereas upon realizing the life-threatening circumstances overtaking Mr. Gartman, these heroes immediately took action to secure the emergency medical attention needed to save Mr. Gartman's life. Whereas the care and compassion exhibited by Jefferson and Tisdale on July 14th saved the Gartman family from tragedy. And I know you're tearing up thinking about, because he could have died. They said in the hospital that he would have definitely passed away if they had not stopped. The actions of Pat Jefferson and Greg Tisdale provide an unparalleled example of Harrison County's commitment to service and compassion to all its residents. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Harrison County, Mississippi, does hereby recognize the outstanding efforts of Pat Jefferson and Greg Tisdale on July 14, 2021, to secure immediate emergency medical attention needed to save Mr. Gartman's life. Further resolved that the board, on behalf of the citizens of Harrison County, do hereby extend its sincere appreciation to Pat Jefferson and Greg Tisdale for their heroic action, which was instrumental in preventing what otherwise would have certainly been a Harrison County tragedy. This is resolved and approved on this October 4th, 2021. Give them a hand, y'all.
Is there someone here from Mr. Gartman's family that wishes to speak?
Tell us your name.
Sorry. Wait, Miss, let's get the family in there.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't we
ask the family?
I think,
Good, come on up. Now, would y'all like to take a picture with him? With that both of them?
Would y'all like to say anything?
hang on, I got
Sorry.
it. Sir, state your name, please.
Whenever.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jared Gartman, the oldest son of Jerry and Glenda Gartman. And we appreciate you finding our dad. And it most likely would have been a tragic happening. And so on behalf of the family, this is my mother Glenda, my sister Teresa, and my youngest brother Glenn, his brother and sister from Florida. On behalf of the family, sincerely, thank you very much. You did save a life, and your service has been recognized. So thank you, the board, for recognizing their achievements here. Thank you. So, he is alive. He did have some reactions to the hardware that was implanted, and he's back in the hospital at Memorial at this time. He just had that recently removed, but he is getting better. So it's going to be a long road to recovery, but there is recovery in sight because of your actions. So thank you very much.
Our prayers are with them.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, just get one picture with the family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Turn your flags around.
Get in tight, y'all.
Yeah,
Get
tight.
Get in.
Okay, I think we got everybody. All right, thank you.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
know, one thing we didn't say, a lot of cars were just going by. They didn't realize, or recognize the situation. That's what makes them special. They kind of went, wait a minute, and turned around and went to check out the situation. And I, you know, compel everyone to do the same in their own neighborhood. Thank you, Raymond.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 5. Order proclaiming the month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Do we have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Is someone here from the Domestic Violence Center? Would you come up and state your name and address, and we will have Vice President Kent Jones to read the proclamation.
Good morning. Stacey Riley, the CEO of the Center for Nonviolence. Full address, 17092 Judge Fountain Road, Biloxi, Mississippi, 3953. Thank you.
Okay, we have an order proclaiming the month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas the Harrison County shares a critical concern for victims of domestic violence and a desire to support their needs for justice and healing. Whereas domestic violence affects both men and women of every age, religion, culture, and status. Domestic violence affects 1.3 million women per year, with an incident occurring every 18 seconds. As many as 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men has physically assaulted by a partner at some point in time in their lives. The crime of domestic violence violates the dignity, security, privacy, and safety of members of our community in the form of physical, emotional, sexual, and economic abuse. Whereas intimate partner violence costs in excess of $5.8 billion nationally each year, $4.1 billion of which is for direct medical and mental health services, and has an economic impact for the lost productivity, accounting to $1.8 billion for American businesses. The Gulf Coast Center for Nonviolence provides emergency shelter and support services for 1,384 victims of violence and received 11,700 calls to its crisis hotline in 2020, reflecting the severity of this problem within coastal counties of Mississippi. African professionals, volunteers, community members concerned with domestic violence will devote the month of October to raise public awareness of the crisis of domestic abuse and its cause, effects, intervention, and prevention. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Harrison County, Mississippi does hereby proclaim the month of October 2021 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I'll make this presentation.
Thank you. Would you like to say anything? I just want to say thank you again, because we've had tremendous support from you guys at the board and from the county as a whole for the services we provide to victims of domestic violence every day, and for the 40+ years we've been doing this, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Get in there, Harry.
All right, perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all so much.
So now we get to the real good stuff. Number 6, consider request by the Gulf Coast Center for Nonviolence for COVID-19 federal funding received by the county.
All right, thank you. Again, I'm Stacey Riley, I'm the CEO of the Gulf Coast Center for Nonviolence, and a few of you have already heard the news that several of the victim service agencies across the coast area have received a reduction in funding. And for the center, this is our largest funding source. Our impact was $700,000. And $700,000 provides a lot of services to a lot of people. And you see that we provided direct services to more than 1,300 victims of violence to Harrison County citizens over the year of 2020. So what the impact has been with us is we had to eliminate 8 positions from our agency. So these are direct service positions. They were case managers, they were therapists, they were our educators out in the community, educating people on the realities of domestic violence. These are the ones who are helping us to build awareness, but also providing comprehensive services to victims of domestic violence and sexual assault across the area. We have also dealing with the impact of our capacity of our shelter, being able to, we've always prided ourselves with saying we do not turn anybody away. We don't have a waiting list. We don't do anything like that, but this has affected us in a way that we have reduced staff in the shelter, that we are not able to clearly say that we definitely cannot take anybody beyond that, that do not have a waiting list. So we're working with trying to rectify that situation. So what we're trying to ask you guys, we're coming here to ask you guys for is we do know that the county has been in receipt of some federal money for response to COVID-19. We have been a good steward of our federal funds for 40+ years. We have received some COVID funding to allow us to provide services to individuals in the midst of a pandemic. And we would also would like to request consideration of looking at ways that the COVID-19 funds the county has received to benefit these services and to recoup the services that we had to cut as a result of this cut, and to allow us time to locate other funding sources to be able to.
Do you take people from other counties?
Yes.
Okay, what does Harrison County currently supply for you?
Harrison County provides, awarded us $20,000. It provides services to victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, and also provides office space for our legal clinic here in Harrison County.
So 20,000 plus office.
Yes.
Do you receive?
What about the shelter? Do y'all own that or do we own that?
No, we own that. And the $20,000 that the county provides helps us to fill in the gaps for what grant money doesn't do. So it helps us with providing medications for individuals who have who are in shelter, IDs. It helps with utilities, some operating costs, and everything.
Supervisor Rocco.
Do you receive any other money from any other counties?
Yeah, Jackson County provides us $25,000, and Stone County gives us $2,000, and Hancock County gives us $5,000.
Jackson County is
25.
We don't give 25?
We have 20 plus. a
Plus
building.
office space.
Plus the building, okay.
Yes.
I understand.
Well,
Sorry.
Harry,
And Stone
you're like
gives 5,000.
in part of one of our buildings. You don't have the whole building, right?
I've got
Explain.
4 rooms in the election commission building.
In the election commission, I thought so.
Okay, that's office space.
Yes.
Which, on top of this, the additional funding that we may be able to receive from the county will allow us to continue moving forward with the process of that Family Justice Center I spoke to you all guys about. We have our MOU that's on your desk to look at. Biloxi has voted to approve the MOU. Gulfport votes on tomorrow, and we're waiting for some other for that. So that will allow us to be able to continue to pool our resources that we all have to be able to better serve victims in our county.
So you
But the
have
MOUs
approached the cities as well?
But the MOUs do not,
This doesn't impact
they
us.
do not address funding at
No,
all.
no.
It's just a concept that they like the idea.
Yes.
That's, I saw it.
Yeah. So
But
they're
they-
moving towards that, but
But none of the
But
cities
none of it has anything
and
to do
any of
with
the
money.
counties participate in funding?
in cities, we get CDBG funding from Gulfport, Gulfport and Biloxi and Pascagoula. The
But that's state money, right?
CDBG is federal.
Federal money, excuse me.
Gulfport gives
They don't
us,
write
Gulfport gives us $10,000 to $15,000 out of their annual fund. So
What's
Gulfport
Biloxi?
does fund the agency.
So you get 10 to 15?
Yeah.
You're not sure?
It, I mean, one year is 10, some it's 50, depends on how their
What does
funding goes.
Biloxi
Biloxi doesn't give us anything out of their.
Long Beach, Bass Christian, Deathaville,
Long
Lost
Beach.
Point, Goshen, Bay St. Louis.
Lost Point, no, Goshen, no, so, but like I said, we get some federal money from, other areas, and some places give us space, like George County gives us an office space up there, so that's, in-kind, funding. Pasco Shan and Long Beach give us $1,000 to $2,000 each, depending on the funding year.
Okay.
And, Hancock County has given us space over there, we have an office space over there, so we have, money that comes in various ways, so sometimes it's just a, place to, we don't have to be operating costs on a building.
Madam President?
Okay.
But have you approached the state at all?
Yes.
Because they have a lot.
I've approached them.
You have approached it?
Yes, I'm working on it, so it's $700,000 out of your budget is a big chunk of money to have to continue to do what we do. So we've been trucking along and doing what we can do, but if there's any opportunities that the county has and any funding the county has to be able to allow us to partner with you to help spend it, because we know that domestic violence has increased in the midst of COVID-19. And the way we all do our our daily work changed significantly since COVID-19.
You know,
So-
you're together all the time.
Yes.
I thought I saw where.
Yeah, that's
Didn't mean
part of
that to be
it.
flippant at all.
You know, and then they not be able to reach out to help. And I'm sure the calls that the sheriff and his guys have received since the pandemic has significantly increased as well. So we have the ability to do financial assistance to victims, to do housing, putting people into their own place to live, to provide intensive case
Now, we have
management.
rental assistance right now that's coming up on the agenda. So I hope you work with the Homeless Coalition. That's who's, we got another grant that they're administering for us, so. Pam, on our budget, what do you think?
On some, we have.
This is
general
COVID
fund.
money, so it wouldn't affect our budget.
Well, that's what, well, I know, that's true.
Well, what about Rescue Act? Because this is clearly COVID-related and mental health, obviously.
CARES Act.
Well, I think the
Yeah.
rescue,
Have a motion.
yeah.
No, we don't.
I'll make a motion and let's,
Second discussion.
A motion to,
give them the 29, what is it? I'm sorry.
they didn't ask for it.
They hadn't asked for
amount.
it.
How much are you, how much
They're
are you
lacking,
requesting?
so.
They're lacking 700,000.
Now, if you want to write me a check for $700,000, I
So what you think, 25?
25.
We do it, an additional.
Additional 25 and to go with the 20, so we have a motion for that, do we have a second?
Second,
25,000.
25 on top of the
On
20
top
we
of the
gave them
20.
budget.
What's that, 45?
That's
And
what
Steve,
we got.
I know we've talked about the Justice Center, and I know you've
Yeah.
been with Representative Felsher, and he called me yesterday with a phenomenal idea specifically for mental health. Have y'all talked about that?
I know.
Anyway, follow up with him. He had a really good idea, but we'll look into the Rescue Act and see if it's eligible.
Okay.
Well, right now, we got a motion and a second on the floor for
25.
additional 25,000.
Right, I was just in discussion.
Okay. I'm sorry. Let's
25.
vote on that. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Okay. Then get with who Supervisor Powers mentioned.
And thank
And
you,
then
Harry,
he's
for
gonna have
continuing to help victims. He was one of the original founders of CASA of Harrison County, and it would not exist without him, so thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, number 7. Let's recognize Trey McKnight, Beautification Director, to discuss Leaders Against Litter 2021 event. Mr. Trey.
Good morning. I just want to give a brief overview of an event that we're having next week on October 15th. It's Leaders Against Litter, and we've invited the mayor and city council from each of the Harrison County municipalities and also the board of supervisors and the legislators that have districts in Harrison County. And I just want to talk about that. What we're going to do is that morning, each of the cities and the board of supervisors, are encouraged to set up their own cleanup area. And
Oh, I'm sorry.
that morning, and then we'll be there for about 2 hours, and then everyone will meet up together around 10, 11 o'clock at Jones Park to have a luncheon and a little get together and a press conference. And the Beautification Commission will be supplying bags and gloves for everyone, and we're encouraging that everyone bring volunteers if you have some. So just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. The invitations are sent out September 24th. So, but in the meantime, if you have any questions or help or guidance
What
or
areas
anything,
are you cleaning? I'm sorry.
just in the county. We're gonna set up a cleanup in each district for the board of supervisors, and then each of the cities is encouraged to set up their own district. And
It's next week, and
yes, ma'am, October 15th.
you got that all settled?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay.
On
Sherry
Friday.
Davis has been helping.
October
working with
15th.
Sir?
October 15th.
Yes, sir.
On a Friday.
Yep. It'll start around 8 o'clock, and we're looking to be done around 12, 1 o'clock.
We
something
have a
like that.
conference in Oxford that same week. Is that week? Oh, is it? Okay, so we'll be there. Talk to Jordan Hartson to get some volunteers. He's got a good program together. Do you know Jordan?
I don't. I'll reach out.
I'll give you his number.
Okay, sounds great.
Call me.
Anyways, look forward to seeing y'all. And we also invited the First Lady, Ely Reeves, and she's expecting to be attending
Great.
the luncheon
Good.
afterwards. So,
And Kim's all on board? Okay,
Yeah.
good deal.
8 a.m. in Jones Park?
8 a.m. is going to be the time where you start in your designated
own
cleanup
designated,
area, and then we're
12
all
o'clock
looking
at
to meet
Jones
up
Park.
around 10:30, 11 o'clock at Jones Park.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks,
All right.
Good
Sherry.
job,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, number 8, let's recognize Mitch Bailey and consider the proposal by Mississippi State University and its Firewise Education Program, the amount of $26,955. Hello, state your name and address for the record, please.
Good morning. My name is Butch Bailey. I live at 11 Summer Oaks, Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I'm a forester for the Mississippi State University Extension Service, and thank you for the time and the opportunity to be here. I'm here at the request of Ms. Ulrich and Fire Chief Sullivan. Apparently there was some questions the board had about the Firewise program, and I would like to be here to answer any questions you have, give you some background, and very briefly, I'll be very brief, a little history of the program. This money is Forest Service money, so it's federal money that is tied to the Forest Service timber harvests in every county in the United States of America. Traditionally, the counties would receive 25% of the gross revenue of all timber harvested off the national forest to spend on, I think the original law said county roads and schools, but it just went into the general budget for the supervisors. In the 90s, when timber harvest in the national forest really started to decline, the federal government created a law, Public Law 396, the Secure Rural Schools and Community Self-Determination Act, which basically said the counties can elect to continue to receive that timber revenue payment each year, or they can secure that payment based on kind of complicated formula of what they historically got, because those timber sales were declining so much. The catch was the federal government said if you choose the secured payment, you have to set aside 15 to 20% on titles 2 or 3 of this law, one of those being Firewise education. Mississippi State University Extension Service originally had an MOA with the board in 2002. Since we're in the education business and we have forestry education, to basically turnkey that educational component so that you are in compliance with the federal law. 85% of the law still goes into of the funds from the timber harvest still go into the county budget, and then the 15% that the law says set aside, we conduct those forestry educational activities and then give you a report to the board. That's kind of the background.
How much does the county get?
The changes each year. It's a step down sunset program. This year it's $26,955.
The same amount you're requesting?
Oh, the total amount the county gets is $180,000.
Okay.
And that's been going on since the early 1900s, since the DeSoto National Forest was
That's the
formed.
way we're going.
Madam President, I have been here for 22 years, and I've never really seen any programs that you've done, any pamphlets, anything about Firewise. And I don't know if Pat has any comments, our fire chief, do you work closely with him? Do you know anything? Do you work closely with them?
Let me, yes ma'am, and this goes back to the question y'all asked the first time. No ma'am, we have not specifically worked with them. The Firewise program, I think is a very good program. I think it's a needed program. I think it's a program that will save some homes because of the education that they give. I just can't speak of this particular program with who's been, and you haven't been running it the whole time, have you?
I started this past summer.
Yeah, so I think there was a disconnect before Mr. Bailey got here, that we never had any meetings, and I've never seen anything come down to us. So from my perspective, I think the program's good. I question the implementation of it in our county, that's all I'm saying.
I think most of it was in the schools. Didn't you go to the schools, Pat? Didn't y'all go to the schools?
We do. We do some in-school activities and some after-school and some adult education, things like that.
But the problem is there's a disconnect between our fire chief in Harrison County and what you're doing.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I think if you brought the fire truck, or if you had, coordinate some of the activities that you have with the people that you're trying to reach out to, it might be much more meaningful to everyone.
I agree.
Including, they may do some duplication of efforts, you don't know, unless you speak with them.
Yes, ma'am. We, in fact, after this conversation started about a month ago, the fire chief and I were supposed to get together, and then Ida came, and that kind of messed that up. So, but we do have plans to work together in the future. I will say, we issue a report to the board every year that shows all the activities that we've done, and this is your report that if the federal government says, are you spending this money correctly, we give you this so that you can see what we've done each year. I brought a copy if you want it.
Absolutely.
You just give it to him.
Will do, absolutely. And, you know, in the future, we'll definitely include them. We send a box of copies to the board every year. We'll definitely include the fire chief each year going forward as well.
Well, I'd like to see y'all, personally, this is, I'm not speaking for the whole board, but I'd like to see there be more coordination between the two.
Yes, ma'am, will do.
And, Mr. Hallman, have you seen this proposed contract?
No, I hadn't.
So should we approve it or table it until you look at it? How's the board feel?
It's just a grant agreement. What I saw is what's attached to the agenda.
Yeah.
It's an MOA, yes.
I don't think there's any problem
No, I mean, it's-
with the state.
I read what was attached. It's not
That's
very
it.
extensive.
Is it for just this year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I say that. I think the MOA says we may have 2 years to spend the money, but it is for this year's money, yes, ma'am.
Tell us what that was.
Well, you want to add something in the contract that says that they need to coordinate with Harrison County Fire?
Absolutely.
I would
Okay,
like that.
I'll modify it. If
Okay.
we can approve it subject to my approval and modification.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second
Second.
to approve subject to Mr. Hallman's modifications? Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried. Thank
Give me a
Thank
call, take email me.
you. Okay, speaking of MSU.
And I am a Mississippi State fan, by the way.
So
I'm
we're
an Ole
on
Miss fan, but I'm hurting this week.
Bless, it's hard.
You need to be.
We're not.
We got saving.
Item 9.
I'll send you an email.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey, are you addressing item 9 too, or is that somebody?
No, ma'am. Doing that,
Okay, item 9, consider approving MSU
Yes.
extension to switch from AT&T to C-Spire high-speed internet at a cost of $370 a month and authorizing budget amendments. Do we have a motion to consider?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. State your name and address. We all know
Wait,
who you are.
I'm sorry, Beverly, before he leaves, have y'all worked together, right? You, Mr.
Oh,
Bailey?
yeah.
Okay. I was just making sure, I mean, you were mentioning about that, and I was just saying with our 4-H coming and all the woods we have out there, I'm sure you two can give him space out there for.
That's right, yeah, we
Go
can
ahead.
work that out, Mr. Beck.
Okay.
Okay, what you,
Tim Ray, Mississippi State University Extension, Harrison County.
so you want to switch from AT&T to C-Spire at $370 a month, is that per phone?
We received an email recently, Ms. Beverly, that, from Mr. Randy Loper, who's the extension, technology and outreach person on MSU campus. I'm not a technology guy. Y'all can tell that by looking at me. But, he wants us to switch to a point-to-point, voice over IP, which gives us direct internet connection to MSU from extension.
Gotcha.
Right now, everything we do goes through the internet, but this will be a direct connection, which, as y'all know, everything right now is kind of going to Zoom programming, things like that. But this will also free up bandwidth for Wi-Fi, which is very needed nowadays. But I think right now we're paying about $200 a month for internet service according to our budget. I think a few years ago, and Ms. Pam, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is we were paying about $350 a month before we did some changes to our internet a few years ago. So we're talking a little bit of difference, but anyway, just wanted to put that out there for your consideration.
What's the board's pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you so much. Item 10, order concurring with the resolution of the Harrison County Development Commission ratifying a declaration of emergency by the executive director and approving the contract with Barn City and Air for repairs to the building owned and occupied by the corporation on Interplex Parkway, Gulfport, Munis, for the price of $55,066. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Discussion. Yeah, the only thing I read in there, I wasn't sure, are we talking about repairing the roof?
No,
It says the roof repairs.
it was air conditioning that went out in June and none of the windows opened, so that's why we declared an emergency. And it was a complete we replaced the entire air conditioning
Yeah,
system.
it just says, if you read some of that resolution, first spoke of repairing the roof.
It's only air conditioning. We have a brand new system now. We've spent more on our old system keeping it running than we did on the brand new system, so.
Gotcha. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 11, order taken off the table, action on exemption from ad valorem taxation for airport leasehold property parcels as listed below. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Item 12, consider whether or not the following parcels as listed should be exempt from ad valorem taxation for airport leasehold property. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Thank you, Airport Authority, for coming today. Would y'all mind coming up? There was a question by the board as to if the tenants, number one, does that have anything to do with the taxes? Number two, are the tenants related to the airport operations? Okay.
Madam President, good morning. Good morning, members of the board. Thanks for having us here today. Clay Williams, Gulfport-Biloxi Regional Airport Authority. As you may be familiar, we send we get a request each year from the Harrison County Tax Assessor asking for all leases that we had in effect for the prior year. So, for instance, early 2021, we received a request from Ms. Ladner's office asking for the leases that were in effect in the year 2020. We provide those to the tax assessor's office, and we actually notate when we send those in that some are aeronautical in nature, some would be non-aeronautical in nature. We have 51 leases at the airport, so those tenants range in scope as to what they do at the airport, but that's what we provide each year for informational purposes. It goes to the assessor's office for review and consideration.
Question I have.
Yes, sir.
And when you issue the lease, or when you consummate the lease with various tenants, do the leases speak to whether they're tax exempt or not, like they did in these particular leases that we're talking about?
For instance,
Do all of them, well, I guess what I'm saying, do all of them reference whether they're airport related and therefore are eligible for a tax exemption?
not if it's an airline. I mean, if it's Delta Airlines or American, or if it's somebody that's servicing one of the carriers out there, no, sir.
What about your car rentals?
Car rentals, it would vary from lease to lease, whether it's notated in there or not. But we consider them to be non-exempt.
All car rentals
Why?
should be?
That's how we
You
notate.
said it varies from lease to lease, so some are exempt, some are not. Which ones?
Well, again, we don't have the governing authority to make the call as to who's exempt or non-exempt, but we do provide the information as to what we feel is an exempt activity or non-exempt activity. Which
So
is
you
just
kind of are
information.
indirectly making the call, correct?
We submit it to the assessor for consideration.
What you feel,
Before you consummate the lease, you talk to the tax assessor to get the information as to whether they feel it's related or not?
We don't. We just
y'all
set the
don't do
leases just as they come. And like I said, there are 51 that we have, and they range from.
What I'm trying to get clarified in my mind, why those particular leases specified non-exempt?
some do and some don't.
And some do and some don't.
Well, for instance, when the land where the office park is located and where the hotels are located, that was, and there was a resolution that was passed in 1996 that notated that was surplus property that was not going to be used for aviation, and therefore we entered into a lease for a variety of things on that side of Airport Road. You've got the office park located there, the 2 airport hotels.
And that was prior to the Supreme Court's determination that they would be
Yes, sir.
eligible.
Yes, sir. So for many years, you had the activities either being exempt, non-exempt, until 2018, when the Supreme Court ruled that you would have all airport leases be exempt from ad valorem taxes. Well, the very next year, the legislature steps in and changes the law to again go back to activities that are either exempt or not exempt based on what type of business they're in.
So,
This particular property that we're talking about,
It's confusing.
you leased the building to them, correct?
Lease the land.
The land, you
Right.
leased the land to them. Okay, it wasn't specifically for anything, it was, the building wasn't built yet, whatever.
It was just land.
It
at
was
the
just
airport.
land, and that's what you leased to them?
Yes.
Okay.
But in 2018, you got a ruling that said all airport leases are exempt. So it doesn't matter if it was land or a garbage truck, it was all exempt, correct? Now,
And they changed that.
Mr. Holloman, they changed it when?
correct. After this decision, let me back up, give the board the history of claim, correct me if I'm wrong, Timmy, you too, I'm not a tax expert. What happened was, for many, many years, these leases, and these leases specifically provide that the lessee will pay taxes. There's a paragraph in there that says they will pay all taxes on the property. Airport wouldn't have paid any tax because they are clearly exempt. There's a provision in there in fairness that says if it's ever determined that the statute's not valid, you know,
Right.
then they take advantage of that. For many years, these leases paid taxes. 2018, the Supreme Court said, basically, if it's airport property, it's exempt. Correct? That's basically what they said. So in 18, those property, all airport property became exempt. Then the legislature in the very next year changed the statute and provided that it had to be substantially unrelated, I think is the language they use, to airport activities. It was not exempt if it's not, if it's substantially unrelated to airport activities. And so I think this property is questioned, that the hotels are not exempt and the rental cars are not exempt.
No, some are. You
Or
just
some,
said some.
well, the ones that have
Yeah.
leases on the airport property
If
are.
we don't sit here and say facts, we need to
Right,
put all of them.
I'm sorry, I misspoke, because the ones inside the airport are exempt more than likely, the ones that are outside the airport, maybe on the, I don't know, which ones are not exempt.
Well, we supply those to the assessor and
Okay.
state that they would be non-aeronautical.
Okay, so that's, the car rental places are, the hotels are, and this building's not, these
Some
buildings
car rental
are.
places are.
That's
Miss Lane.
basically the issue, is whether or not it's substantially unrelated to airport activities. This is a office park. It has both, it leases to entities that may have some airport duties, but it's not, they're just leasing property. There are also lessees in there that clearly aren't airport activities, a home care, that kind of thing. So it's an office park. That's basically, they pay taxes up until 2018, and then they didn't pay it for the couple of years before the legislature passed the statute, and then the tax assessor determined it was not substantially airport related, and put it back on the tax roll. So that's what we're dealing with, really, probably 2 years of taxes.
And the issue is substantial. Now, that's subjective.
Yeah.
It's a subjective decision that the board has to make whether something is substantial or not.
But the big,
And
Miss Tina, or excuse me, Miss Paula, not Paula, Tina. What percent of businesses are in that office building that work directly with the airport?
Yeah, there's 90% of Department of Homeland Security. We have the gaming, the
Now, what
airport.
percent overall of your office? How many offices you got out there?
There's 5 buildings, and there's Department of
Okay.
Homeland Security in every one of the buildings.
Okay,
So nine-
okay, but out of all the offices, you go by your leases, you got 5 buildings, how many leases do you have?
We have 3 leases with GSA,
3,
Department of
okay.
Homeland Security.
Okay,
And then we have 2 smaller leases with 2 home health care facilities.
Okay.
Entities.
so out of the 5, 3 are with Homeland Security, which is directly with
3, and there's overall 5 buildings. Two of the buildings are completely Customs Border Patrol and ICE, and then at least 1/4 of all the other ones are.
what she's got here, if I may,
Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Ms. Tina, if I'm looking at these papers, I think y'all submitted this, that she's saying, governmental, the thing that I think you're asking, I think she's saying 88% of that. And then 22% is private, non-government. Are you arguing that the non-government is not related, but the government is?
We're not arguing that.
That's not what you're saying?
The government would be airport related and the commissioners.
That's what he said. What you're arguing is what you got listed here is government.
Right.
That is what you're arguing is substantially related to airport.
Let me give you the statute that we're talking about. I have this to give each one of y'all because it's clear in the statute. It's just one page.
But
It's-
Tina, we're familiar with this, but let me.
But it's
back on
unrelated,
track.
means it's substantially unrelated use of the structure. What is the use of the structure? It's right here. Unrelated, but it's looking to the use, that's.
Right, and I think we understand that. Hold on just a minute. I think we understand that. What we're trying to determine is how much use of your entire 3 buildings is related to the airport. Is 88%?
88%.
Okay.
That's right.
what
That's
we-
by the square footage, and you have rentable square
88%.
footage, usable square footage.
That's what we.
This is, but if you look at that statute and you look at the language, and you gotta give meaning to every word of the statute, then it says, it's like a double negative. It says, unrelated lease entered into by authority or other arrangement, which the current and primary use of what? Of the structure, improvements, or other facilities erected, constructed, or located in connection therewith are substantially unrelated. So unrelated use of a structure that is substantially unrelated to the airport activity. I think the commissioners are here and are gonna agree, it's airport related. It just
Or at
has
least
to be
88% of it is.
substantially unrelated. So
Now, keep in mind, this is talking about the lease between the airport authority.
We
not-
understand, but it does say
But you
in
can't
here.
Not the lease, wait
Not-
a minute, not the leases between them and third parties. The statute is referencing the lease between the airport and the entity, whatever the name of it is, Mr. Braun's. It is not referencing the lease between them and third parties.
Right. I'd like to ask Clay, and in your expertise dealing with airports and everything, is FEMA one of those?
Yes, sir.
All right. How much is FEMA substantially related to your activities in the airport?
We only deal with FEMA after a natural disaster.
Same as we would, same as Harrison County or the cities.
Correct.
So arguably, they're not substantial, just because they happen to be on airport property, they're not substantially dealing with the airport and its airport activities. You deal with FEMA just like the county or any other entity that would deal with them. So it's not some special relationship between you, FEMA and the airport, just because they happen to be on your property or on property you've leased.
And as Mr. Holloman stated, our lease is directly with Gulf Bridge Properties.
That's
As the
right.
office park owner, we don't have direct leases with their subtenants.
You don't,
But
you
your
don't have a
lease-
lease with FEMA or any of the other government on that. You have
But
a
do
lease
you
with the.
still have a lease with Clear Channel?
We do not.
But when you had a lease with Clear Channel, did you or did you not collect from them who they leased that advertising to? Because I know for a fact, we used them. And we paid based on, y'all got paid based on who they leased to. If it was a casino, you got more money. If it was a mom and pop, you got less. Mostly it was casinos, I'll give you that. But if it was tourism commission, who didn't really pay anything. So my point in this, there's a precedence that's been set here with that you did lease to a third party. You collected money based on those third party leases, and now he's saying they don't. See, the way it worked was Clear Channel sold the advertising space inside the airport. The walls and the square footage if you had a 10 by 10 booth, correct?
It was an advertising
So-
contract, and Madam President, we got a percentage of either the static display or the digital display.
And it depends on who they leased it to as to how much your percentage was, because at the time, the Tourism Commission leased a little booth and they didn't pay anything. Hard Rock leased the whole wall up there and they got substantial money. So I guess my point is, I appreciate Mr. Holloman, and normally I don't disagree with him, but I see it like you have in the past collected your money based on those third-party leases, but yet now you don't wanna collect taxes or pay taxes based on those third-party leases. I'm confused why it works one time and it don't the
But
next.
just for clarification purposes, all that gets submitted to the county tax assessor is the lease rate. So we're asked about the leases that are in effect. And so if there's a lease in effect with a rental car company, or there's a lease in effect with a restaurant concessionaire, that's the amount that we present to the county. And again, our notation that we provide the assessor is just informational as to who we think would be aeronautical or who we would think would be non-aeronautical.
But if I may, I think the basic question here is, he is, as our attorney has said, you're leasing and then he's subleasing. So
is Clear
his
Channel, so is Avis, so is Budget.
I just think that
They're all subleased.
I don't think they're all subleased.
They are. You go rent, you don't go to the airport and rent a rental car from Budget. You go to Budget, that's subleasing.
Well, I think the issue then,
In my opinion.
we should speak to the tax assessor and
That's
see
who I'm
why
about to call
that's done. Not necessarily the airport authority. So we need to get, I think from the tax assessor, their justification whether something is taxed or exempt.
And just so the board, remember that you're not just talking about Mr. Braun. They've
right.
sold this to another entity, which this is gonna, whatever the board does apply to going forward to all those taxes.
Everybody.
So Ms. Paula,
Yes.
so do you, carte blanche take what the airport sends you as to what is exempt and what is not, or do you make that determination?
We make the determination, but we make it according to the statute. If it's related to the airport, the car rental places, if you'll look in the statute, it says the provision of ground and air transportation services to commercial or private aircraft passengers. To me, the car rental companies that are located inside the airport are beneficial to the airport.
So they
They're
are
related.
exempt.
They're exempt.
What is
But
an
I can
example?
go out there and rent a car at that airport, and I'm not an airport passenger. I'm just going out there to rent a car, right?
You could.
You can.
Okay.
But
But
what
it's
if
in the
that,
provision that exempts it. It's on the airport property. It benefits the airport, it's exempt.
But
And
what
there
about
is a
this-
list of what
Are
makes
we
it
done?
exempt.
That's what we're trying to
what
figure out.
about the statute that said, I mean, or what, they lease a piece of property, okay, it's leased. And
We're looking
they
at
build
the
a building.
airport leasing to Gulf Breeze properties. That's what we're appraising. That's what we're assessing.
Whatever Gulfport is leasing to an individual. What they do with that and who they lease it to should be, is not an issue with
It's not
you.
the
Is
tenant.
that correct?
That exempts it.
It's not the tenant
Not the tenant.
that exempts it. It is the actual building or service that exempts it. Is that correct?
Gulf Breeze property, who is the lessor from the airport authority. We're not looking at who Gulf Breeze property is
Rents
leasing
to.
to, renting to.
Lease
They're
to.
tenants.
Do you never, when you're assessing a property value, do you never consider a tenant, whether there's tenants or not? But I bring this up because about 4 months ago, and I apologize, I don't have the case in front of me, there was a shopping center, corner of Cedar Lake and Pops Ferry, that came before us that y'all recommended that we lower the ad valorem tax because they had lost a huge tenant, which
Yes.
was Virginia College. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
So you do consider tenants.
Using the income
You do.
approach, that had an effect on the value of the property because of the
That
revenue.
law.
It's not, it's apples and oranges. There's no.
See, it seems that way to me because if you don't consider who the tenants are, then that's fine. But you obviously do
Not,
consider who
it was
tenants
the
are.
income that was being considered, not like if they had a tenant in there that was,
Yeah.
if half the property was destroyed,
And it's a
and the
specific
revenue
law.
was cut in half. Using the income approach, that would affect.
It wasn't destroyed, they just moved out.
Well,
But they didn't have a specific
the
law that
income was
said
reduced.
what the airport
The
authority has
revenue
to
was
do.
reduced.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around this because to me, I'm a very common sense, black and white kind of person. So either you consider tenants or you don't.
That's right, if you consider tenants for the
And you
purposes
gotta
of
consider
taxing money,
tenants for this
then
one,
you have to consider
in my
it reduced
opinion.
by the tenants for the purposes of not taxing. And if you look at it,
Period.
just
I
real
agree.
quick, Tim,
I agree.
No, that's not correct. You look at income. It doesn't have anything to do with the tenant. It has to do with
This
how much
is a
income is
different-
being earned. It don't matter who the tenant is, it's how much money you get. It determines value. That's one way you decide how much it's worth.
I would like to clarify.
Where it comes from, you don't care. You just know it's got money.
I want to clarify the car rental issue, Paula, if I may. If I were to lease some property across the road from the airport, and I established a car rental there, would I be exempt?
No.
It's not connected.
The only reason that the car rentals that you have listed exempted is because they're on the airport property per se.
Yes.
And that's what you're saying the statute permits you to do.
That's my interpretation of the statute.
Which is what,
Because it's on the airport
I
property.
agree with
The
you.
county used to lease property for the justice court. Yeah, that was owned by a private citizen. And the use did not exempt that property. It was used for county purposes.
The county
It was
normally
county
would be
court.
exempt, the justice court, but it
It was not exempt. The IRS had a property in Orange Grove that it leased for years. It was not exempt by
You
the
weren't
tenant.
taxing the IRS, you can't do that, you were taxing.
Sure, and if the
lease-
church, if the church,
Not the leaseholder, but.
if the church is renting a building from an individual, well, there's several you'll find in strip centers and places, little churches pop up. They're not exempt because it's a church. It's still a commercial property owned by the private citizen. It's not owned by the church. The owner, in our opinion, exempts the property. And in this case, between the lessor and the lessee is the only contract that we can look at based on the revision that's made on the law.
but you said the owner exempts the property, right?
The owner gets the,
If
The
the owner were
ownership
the
would
federal
exempt
government, he
property.
couldn't tax them. If the owner is a private individual that rents to the federal government or an agency of the government, he taxes the owner, not the government.
Right, and this
But Mr.
statute
Ladner-
The owner,
The statute tells
property's
you,
the airport.
the statute tells you to specifically look at the lease entered into by the authority in accordance with section 61.391, and it goes through and set forth limitations.
But
It
you have-
does not tell you to look at third-party subleases of that property. If the airport leased this property to the TSA directly, or the Homeland Security, it would be exempt. There's no question about that.
but
So-
Tim,
the whole building.
The whole
The whole
the
building,
land.
and then the TSA could rent it out to whoever they wanted to, and they would still be taxed.
No, that
No,
might
they-
change
If
that.
they would be exempt, I mean, they would be
I don't think
exempt.
TSA
But
can
if
do
you
that.
had an individual, if I bought it,
There's an
and
office
I
building.
leased it to everybody and it's federal government, you'd still tax me.
That's right, just like.
Okay,
but
that's
if
the
you were
point I'm trying to
TSA, and I leased that land straight from Mr. Dennis over there at the airport authority, then I could turn around and lease it to Tina Gillich.
Not TSA couldn't do that.
Why
Because
couldn't they?
the governmental entity is not in the real estate business, they can't lease, a governmental agency wouldn't be in that business.
They don't lease any property.
I mean, they may lease it, I don't think they do third-party leases.
They wouldn't sublease
They
it.
wouldn't lease a building and
They
sublet
did
it
right
to
over
somebody.
here in Gulfport.
I don't know, I don't, to lease it to somebody else after they leased it. I don't know that.
They donated it to Gulfport and Gulfport tested.
Oh, well, that's another governmental entity.
That's a governmental.
Donated it.
See, y'all
if
confused
I could
me.
just make 3 points. Mr. Ladner, you asked Paula about that if the car rentals are on the airport property, but there's a huge parking lot that's not on the airport property, that's down the road on Claudette. And it's all for Avis budget rental. Is that tax exempt? It's there, I guess they're, we're calling that off the airport property.
The airport owns that team.
Okay, but it's the use of the car rental companies. You have the crossing arms and you can't enter, we put that in the notebook.
Are you saying that property that you're describing are
Yes.
exempt?
It's off, but it's used by the car rental companies, and it's not on airport property, it's Claudette's.
It's not, is it your property?
It's their property, but the use of it is they're allowing Budget, Avis, and them to store their cars there.
But it's our, it's
Okay, okay. Tell me, I wanna make
It's not
sure.
your property.
It is, it's real car center.
It's not the airport's property.
It is.
It is.
Oh, it is.
But the heads arms, you can't enter this off the budget rental car. When you look at the airport leases, tax exempt to the rental car companies. So Avis, and these are multi-billion-dollar international companies that made at least $5 billion last year. They're not Mississippi corporations, they're Florida, Oklahoma, Minnesota. So Avis, the rationale behind this law, why would you exempt car companies that, what do car companies do? They rent to the public. To go rent.
Actually, the
Because the
legislature
airport owns it.
stated that.
Well, here you still have, y'all, you can't keep blinders on and not look to the use of the
Is
structures.
there a lease between those car rental companies and the airport authority? That's
But then
what
they,
the
but
statute-
then I'm just finished, the car company is leasing to the public, to the person that goes in there and drives the car. What is Gulf Breeze doing? Gulf Breeze, airport leases to Gulf Breeze, and Gulf Breeze is leasing, like the car company leases to the person that drives the car, to all Homeland Security. Airport related, Tim, I want to make sure, the burden is not that we are substantially related, it's that we're not substantially unrelated. It's if we're just airport related. When you look at the law, unrelated is a use that's
In the negative, right?
in,
Unrelated contracts and leases entered into by the airport authority.
the use of the structure, which is
No.
airport related. And, you know, that's why we went to law school together, I think maybe Professor Shaw is like, what's the Constitution among friends? You are the fact finder, you are the law today, it's your interpretation of the law. Is it reasonable to let car companies be exempt, but not the Department of Homeland Security, which is the headquarters of the government? I think everyone will agree here, Department of Homeland Security does provide airport services sufficient to qualify for the exemption. It would be arbitrary otherwise, so.
But I think we agree on that, right, Tim? We agree that Homeland Security, TSA, all that is
If they had the
exempt.
lease with airport authority, I have no doubt this statute would make them exempt. But this statute is very specific when it says, and a lease entered into by the airport authority pursuant to which the primary use of the structure is improvement. So this lease is nothing more than an office party. It doesn't have anything to do, the lease between Gulf Breeze and the airport authority is just for
But it
maintenance,
says
actually.
primary use of the structures.
The leases.
And that's the primary
No,
use
because
is for
The structures and
No,
airport-related
this lease doesn't have
businesses.
anything to do with that. They could have leased it to anybody they chose to lease it to. It wasn't specified to be
But then
Homeland
the
Security.
primary use wouldn't be there if they leased it to a
But
babysitter.
the lease between read the statute, look, I don't want the board to get in trouble, so this is where this problem comes in. This statute specifically says the lease entered into by the airport authority with the lessor, in this case Gulf Breeze, its primary use has to be for these activities.
Well, I see it
And
as
that's-
primary use.
It says lease or other arrangement.
But that's still with the airport authority. And if, I know, I don't like what the legislature did at all, because everybody has to pay their fair share of taxes, but, one other question that came to my mind.
Not these
This,
people.
y'all paid taxes for years and years, right, under this lease? And the lease rate was set in the lease in part based on what you had to, your expenses, right? Including taxes. When the Supreme Court ruled that it was exempt and you stopped paying taxes for that couple of years, did y'all lower your lease payments to your tenants?
No.
Excuse me, we did refund the GSA.
Okay, so GSA made you refund it. Okay, that's at least something.
Not, for
Not
one of the
bad.
buildings, it's a little complicated. 3 leases, one we had to refund, the other 2 they're not paying for that one.
Okay. It's up to the board to make a factual determination. Do we want to hear from anybody from the airport?
Yeah, I would like to, since we made them come down
Made 'em
here.
come.
It's hard.
We got 2 generals and agents. I mean, we gotta
So
hear from
come
them,
on,
my God.
Y'all come up here and tell us something. How do y'all feel about this? That's what made them take their day off of work to come talk to us.
Wait 2 hours.
Well, that's their whole view.
Talk about law. I talk about airplanes. Okay, what do y'all need to know about airplanes? You're dropping in low angle, low drags. You're dropping them at
David, don't you
about.
want to stand between the two generals?
Oh. That's a danger, I don't even have
Okay,
stripes
that's
on my shoulder, so.
How do y'all feel about this?
Uh,
If you were in my shoes, what would you do?
Well, I'm just gonna tell you, we send you a thing every year, and we look at it. Our lease, when we look at a lease with someone from the airport, just say Favor is one. All right, we lease to them, but we don't determine them to be essential. As I would say, is that right, Clay? And they're not airport, 100% airport directed. They're selling food, they're selling magazines, they're selling other things. Yet they lease right inside the airport. The question is, we look at it, as I say, we look at, Clay and them look at it, we make a determination in the board, and we say that this is determined to be airport related. And we ask that to your tax assessor and say, hey, this is what it is. And at that point, we're out of it, basically. We don't have a determination. So to ask me to tell me what I would do if I was in your shoes, I'm not in your shoes, so it'd be hard to figure that out. But the point is, the airport is doing everything. We don't make a determination. We just give you a request.
A recommendation.
A recommendation. It's totally up to y'all to do it. I mean,
Generally, you said the word related, and we're trying to differentiate between related and essential. So like Faber obviously is not essential. They get food, or maybe they are essential. Your people do need water and food before that, and their magazines, so.
So is Arby's, so is
Right.
the restaurant there. Everything's essential to a point.
But let me ask you this. You are not leasing to FEMA, you're not leasing
No, ma'am.
you're not leasing to any tenant in there. You are leasing to Gulf Breeze. Is that
Yes, ma'am.
correct?
Yes, ma'am. And we don't, I don't know who's gonna be in there next month. They can do anybody, so that's up to, we can only give you our best effort.
Question comes up too is, what if Residence Inn or Hilton Gardens rent to, say, 2 floors during a storm to FEMA or someone?
Which they've done.
Which they do, likely. Does that become an exempt item for that duration of time? That's a question, but
That's the key that Paula, Paula can speak for herself. She looking at the person who leases the property, not the activity necessarily on the property, and making a determination as to whether that property is tax exempt or not as applies to the statute.
I mean, we could be so subjective as to say,
I guess the argument would be, if you worry about equity, what if there's two, I rent the property from the airport and you rent the property from the airport. I lease to a FEMA or a governmental agency that does have some relation with the airport, some argument. And you rent it to some private individual that makes widgets.
thank you.
I'm gonna get the tax exemption and you're not.
It's the same as what if we have a hotel and the hotel rents their rooms to airline stewardesses who then spend the night.
My example is Paula's gonna look at the one that is gonna look at who the private leases are, not whether they're renting it to a company that makes widget as opposed to FEMA.
I would say one other thing, what Clay said, he said that the FAA deemed that property as not airport essential, is that correct?
Correct.
So once it was not deemed as airport essential, it's not falling under that category.
Right.
And that property was released in 1996.
So the
I mean,
property the rental cars are parked on, did they deem that not essential? It's pretty far away from the airport.
That's our land.
That
Oh, it belongs to you. Gotcha. But the other one didn't belong to you? I thought it does.
The rental car service center, it's ours, and they just utilize it for service purposes.
But you own the land that Ms. Gillett and them's building sell. Do you
We
not?
do, and again.
Well, that's their land.
It was, But it was actually, we leased the land to them, Madam President, and then the land was released in '96 for non-aeronautical purposes. So hotels are built over there now, office parks built over there now.
Arguably, somebody, with the hotels, if I were the hotel person or the person who's leasing to the hotel, I'd argue that people come in that airport and that hotel is a good service to the airport, because if it weren't there, people might not fly in. Therefore, it's a substantial relationship with the airport. That's what you get into.
Exactly, and that's my issue with interpretation, and that's why we need to follow with Tim's interpretation of the statute.
I mean, you can.
Well,
Our concern is if we specifically say this is, that we make a recommendation, just like you've done your list for 20-some odd years, the airport's done that. It could open up a Pandora's box that it's not up to the airport to make that determination.
Right.
Then why send the list?
It's requested.
The tax assessor makes that decision based on the information they get from them.
It's requested.
If it's not up to you, then don't bother with the list, is what I would say.
they have the right to collect the income so they can determine the value of the property, not just exemption. The tax assessor might be of the opinion they're all non-exempt, but that would be an argument that would be made. They get the leasehold so they can determine value based on the lease from any governmental entity that leases property out to a third party. It's exempt until they lease it out, and then the only way to establish the value of that property is by the value of the lease. My concern is more, and look, Bobby's a friend and Tina's a friend. I'd love to just say, yay, let's go. But this statute is very specific if you read it.
I love
And it's got subsections in it that are important. They can argue that exemption. This board can factually determine whether it's exempt or not. And that's this board's prerogative, not mine. My concern is, if we're to find this property to be exempt, and the tax assessor is saying it's not exempt, and the airport authority basically saying it's not exempt, so they're not making a determination, but they're not saying it's related to the airport, I'm not gonna get them in trouble. Then no appeal gets taken, and this board has made a decision, because they're not gonna appeal it if they win. So the board's made a decision. Not only that, my concern has nothing to do with them, it has to do with what you're establishing as a fact going forward. That's a lot of lost tax revenue. And so if the board were to rule against them and they appeal it and a court determines that we were wrong, that my interpretation is wrong, then this board is protected. My job is to protect this board. And so that would be my concern. And so the board can factually determine whether they believe it's exempt or not. And that's the issue we're before us today.
I think we can keep going on and on and on. I'm prepared to make a motion to deny.
We have a motion to deny.
For the exemption. I think in effect, upholding what the tax assessor's position on this.
So we've got a motion to deny. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor to deny signify by aye.
Aye.
No. All those opposed, no. Okay.
I didn't hear all the votes.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Y'all don't want to hear about airplanes?
Hey, all I tell you is you got one of the best airports in the nation because of that man.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
General
guys.
Griffin, I'm gonna tell Robert I saw you.
Yeah.
I'll tell Robert.
Okay.
Thank y'all very much.
Agenda items number 13 through 19 have been placed on the consent agenda. Same appearing to be routine, non-controversial matters on which all supervisors are likely to agree. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carries. I do have something I forgot. That on number 17, the order approving the claims docket. Is this what Stone County supervisors did that they got in some trouble for?
No, that's not what they did, but when you approve the claims docket.
Rebecca, you might want to hear this.
Oh. Sorry, wait.
Go.
Or maybe not.
When you approve the claims docket, the board is responsible if something turns out to be amiss. And I'm getting Friday, I hope to have all that stuff from Stone County and I'll be talking about it.
So that's my concern is should we table? I know we just voted, but we could move to table this until you get more information on
I don't
Friday.
think it'll matter on this. I mean, the problem with the claims docket is the board is required by statute to approve it. And
Yeah, but
I don't know how
eventually
thick it is,
approve.
probably how many transactions.
Just on the, what happened in Stone County, I read it, but I can't.
I've only seen, at this point, all I've seen is the demands by the auditor against the supervisors. As I understand what occurred is the circuit clerk, as our circuit clerk does, submits a order of the court.
Any fee
that orders the board to reimburse the clerk for certain things. In this case, mostly it was indigents. In the Stone County, the board approved it without a court order from the court. They probably did it just like you're approving the claims document, what was on the agenda. I mean, the problem with the claims document, how many transactions are in a claims docket?
Thousands.
But there was also,
There's thousands of them.
there was also
At
an
least 1,000.
issue that, in these fees, people who get paid by fees, which is chancery clerk, circuit clerk, constables, we got several of them on there. Is that true with all of them?
I don't
was
think
told
it's
it was.
true. And you have to look at the statute. And the problem with this statute is it says specifically, because I understand that, all I've seen is the demand letter. It doesn't have a lot of information in the demand letter. What I've been told is, and I did read the statute, the statute says that on order of the circuit clerk, or circuit court, and approval of the board of supervisors, the clerk shall be permitted X, Y, Z. In this case, as they would pay an indigence. So what happened is, I understand that the circuit clerk put those on the agenda, got them approved, and there was no order of the court approving it. So the board approved it without an order of the court.
I heard the judge didn't sign it. and
The judge
it
didn't
was-
sign it.
It was an
That's what he
they
said.
overlooked it.
That's right. They didn't,
That's what he
there was
said.
no order, there was a dispute ongoing with the circuit judge where he refused to sign it. That was my
Oh, okay,
understanding.
I thought he
And
just.
So my
It was
question
released.
is, not that I'm getting
But the
taken
work was
advice,
done, right?
but should we table this? is
We're
my question.
kinda in a conundrum
Yeah.
because, like Tim indicated, I don't know, there's 300 or more, even more, activities on that claims docket. I've read that claims docket, I try to keep up with it, I can't read each one. How do I know that each one of those?
Just been ordered.
How
It's
do
almost
I
impossible.
personally know, and even Tim, if you just read the claims docket, he doesn't know whether it's legal or not, without investigating each one of the activities that goes on, so we're
how
kinda
do you do that?
dependent upon the circuit clerk and the county administrator who approves those things that they are in fact legal and correct.
Right, and I
Should
don't
we
wanna-
add, maybe there's a suggestion here for all fee pays, because from what I understand, this could be anybody that's collecting fees, that we should add some kind of affidavit in there by each chancery clerk, circuit clerk, all of them, that says,
I think they're under oath anyway. I don't think you have to do
swear
that.
that this is correct. I mean,
I think, look,
What
I
about
think
the
maybe
seven?
if you want me to look at I didn't look at the claims statute to see what it says. The issue in Stone County has to do with the fact that the court had refused to sign the order that got put on the board agenda anyway, and nobody caught it, and it got approved. I mean, y'all, just so y'all know, I do read these things. And so like last week, when those affidavits popped up on the thing, and they said something vague, like, can't find it, I said, well, wait a minute, we're not
Right.
signing an affidavit that says that. So we try to read those things when I see something that is the thing, but I mean, it's just, sometimes it's hard to catch all that stuff. You have to depend on your elected official. Unfortunately, Stone County got in a situation with its elected official up there, the circuit clerk, where they approved it and probably shouldn't have, and multiple people should have caught it. And not the current board attorney, but the previous board attorney probably wasn't looking at it close enough, and the clerk of the board should have been looking at it. Not ours.
so,
I mean, the point is,
And the board should have been looking at it.
Yeah, but they're all elected officials and we can't question them.
You can, if it's not, you don't have an order, there's two
According to
requirements
most
on that
people.
to get paid. One is approval of the court, the second is approval by the board of supervisors. So when it went on the docket, what you see, and Actually, Connie called me, she wants to come give a report to the board. I said, why don't you wait until I see what they're doing first?
I'd like
She
to
says,
hear from
they do, she includes the court order in the, then when she asked for approval of it, so apparently they approved it without a court order even being entered, and in fact, it's worse because there the judge is actually refusing to enter the orders and was holding the circuit clerk in contempt for not doing what he was supposed to do.
We have to depend on the elected officials to
And
make
the
sure.
board's liability is because they
Legitimate
approved it
claim.
without a court order, the statute specifically required a court order approval, so.
I guess we could table it, Beverly. but I
That's what
don't know if
I'd
we
be
can.
comfortable tabling it until at least
just
next
don't-
Monday.
It's, yeah, till Monday, and then I can look at the statute.
So can we entertain a substitute motion to
Motion
table
to
number
table.
17? Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. So you should have something by next
So,
Monday.
so we're not, so we're tabling the claims docket, so no check will be sent out.
Correct.
We'll look at it.
Until it'll be Monday.
The sad thing about it is, you know, these laws were written in a day where there may have been 10 claims.
Right.
Not 300, not the size of a county in
This
Mississippi.
is a
not
this
Harrison
is,
County.
actually,
This
this
is a
is a
thinner
small,
one.
this
Yeah.
is a small claim.
That's a small one.
But still, you don't get
Yeah,
enough
most of it
information
is
behind the
the-
claim
That's
to
my,
make a
that's my
judgment.
point. I actually looked at that claims document, but I don't know if the activity I'm approving is legal or not. I don't know if the purchase orders were
Okay.
rightfully issued. I don't know all that. All I know is that's the claims document. I gotta depend on the elected officials and the county administrator that it is in effect.
And there are instances where errors made that you wouldn't be liable for.
All right,
In
so
the case of
table
Stone
it
County would be.
until Monday. So you'll let us know what you think
Can
Monday.
I-
On number 20.
Madam President, can I ask a question? Are you tabling the approval of the claims docket or just that one item?
No.
No, I don't think there's any issue without particular items on our claim docket, is it?
We just tabled item 17, but we're approving the claims docket.
That's
We
the whole
appro-
claim.
But we approving, but I'm trying to say there's no one particular issue on that claims
Correct.
docket that we're concerned about. We're tabling
Concerned
the
about
whole
it.
claims
The whole
docket.
thing.
Okay, that's
Concerned
what I
about
want
it
to
all.
make sure, because 90% is through purchase orders, requisitions,
That's fine. They wait.
receiving reports.
everybody
Everything's
sign
in
off.
line. We are following these purchasing laws. So when you have a
Wait a
handbill that
week.
comes through the court or whatever, it's something I can't verify.
But that's the point. We're trying
Well,
to buy a
my
week
point
to
is,
find
though,
out
is
something.
just like Tim said, we're all under oath. Normally, if you see under the Chancery Clerk, most of those handbills through contracts and whatever obligation the board has is separate. So that comes under what you've approved. However, it comes from the circuit court, circuit clerk. There's no way I can question that.
We know, that's why we
Okay.
tabled the whole
But you're
thing.
not approving the whole claims docket,
Correct.
which means that we're not
Correct.
paying
That's right.
the
Correct.
proper
That's right.
accounts.
That's what that means.
You're gonna punish the
correct.
whole.
No, they're gonna let me look at the
Punish
statute.
the rate to one week.
Thank you for recognizing me.
Week.
Thank you.
Okay, item 20.
I think the point is you're gonna advise us what the law is,
Yeah, how we're gonna
however
do
it's not
this.
gonna
That's all.
impact
We're
that
just
particular
postponing
claim
it a
document.
week. Item 20, order spreading on the minutes personnel changes for the tax collector's office as listed on file with the payroll administrator. Do we have a motion? Motion. Do we have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. So that's pretty serious, y'all. Item 21, road department, Mr. Tim Smith, discuss the performance of the GPS.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We've had numerous problems with this company that we've hired to do the GPS. Right now, we almost have 100 units that are offline that they can't tell us anything about. Send emails, zero response. When you do get a response, they don't even know what the problems are. It's been a time with this company. We pay right at about $6,400 a month, which is almost $77,000 a year for this. Right now is the time to renew. I suggest we don't renew this company.
Motion.
Motion, what?
Now,
To
what I-
not renew.
What I have done, and Pam's been involved as well, we have looked at 2 other companies. They have one company that's called FirstNet Pro Plus, which is a glorified system of what we got now. We don't need that. We also did a Zoom call with the Samsara. It's a company. They have over 15,000 accounts, so they're well into this. Looked at some of their clientels, kind of talked with them to see how happy they were with this unit they have. So I'm suggesting, and it's gonna be about the same monies as what we paid. We're gonna get a better service, I believe. We're gonna cut the AT&T middleman out of it as well, so it's gonna be beneficial to us. Also, there's one thing that I really like about this unit. Everybody's aware of kind of the generator problems we have, you know, oil levels, different stuff. You can specifically put the GPSs to each one of these generators as well through these shelters in different places. It tell you the fuel levels on it, the oil levels, how much voltage the regulators and all are putting out on them.
That's
So,
nice.
yeah, it'll tell you how that operates as it's running. You'll be able to see it pretty much.
They can tell whether you brush your teeth.
Exactly. But it pretty much responds to you as every second to every 3 seconds. So it's pretty much right up to speed.
So let me ask you a question in reference to the present company. You said there's about 6,000 vehicles or something that's not?
No, it's 100.
100?
That it's not reporting.
It's
We
not,
pay.
are the, I'm not that technical, but are those vehicles, do they have the GPS item in them?
Sure, yes, sir.
And it's been activated, but they can't
Absolutely.
record? They
This
can't
has been
keep up?
going, right. It won't read anything. The company won't tell us what's going, they don't even know.
They won't come and look at that particular vehicle and see why it's
Half
not
the people
recording?
you deal with this company, they're out of Canada when you talk to them.
Can't run that.
So-
They're not gonna get in their car and tell
Tim,
them.
right.
How much is it per unit?
I think if you break it down, because we bought all the units, I think, don't it come out to like 22 something per unit, plus the cell service? It's a hodgepodge.
And this contract is, over, when?
Do you have
It's up now.
It's up now. And the board needs, I think the board needs to authorize Tim to look at another company and make a recommendation to us.
It just says a service.
Have y'all talked about it in case? Have y'all talked about it?
Okay, do we have a motion and a second on
I
the
made a
floor?
motion to authorize, Tim, Pam, the people that need to be involved, our county employees that need to be involved to review and make a recommendation to us in reference to GPS.
IT as
So
well?
we already got a motion and a
Robbie has
second.
been in.
Yeah.
Any
We're
further
gonna do a official,
discussion?
let's look and make sure that doesn't have to be done by proposals or.
All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Item 22, order acknowledging receipt of rent exempt public trust titlements lease for the bridge replacement on Cuevas to Little Road, as recommended by the Jackie Turner, B.E. Harrison County Engineer. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second discussion, Tim, based on those court orders we seem to be getting on that, how long do we have to continue doing this even though there's no cost to it?
Well, I'm sorry, I was thinking about what he said, I wasn't listening. I did not recommend the board to approve this. I think the board should reject, deny.
Deny.
Yeah, first off, I don't even think it's entitled, it's up on the
It's a bridge.
It's on a value, actually, is what it is.
It's way up there, so I don't recommend the board, so far we have 2 cases saying we don't need a title as lease, and we should need a
And
title.
proceed with that. With that
Now-
adversely, the federal funds that are involved in this, it wouldn't, Jim, you don't think it would have any
I
effect
don't
on
think there's federal in this one, this is state funded.
these are state funds?
Yes, sir. We did receive notification from them requesting this lease, so.
This is
Well, that
non-cost
was
lease.
before they got beat in court 2 weeks ago.
I'm sorry.
Even though it's non-cost, it's the principle of the thing.
The judge hadn't entered the order yet, but we'll be shortly, we think.
Yes, sir. I mean, it's a roadway. It is titled, but it is a roadway. I agree with you.
So,
I don't mind writing Raymond Carter back and telling him that I've advised the board.
I make I think somebody already made
We
a
made a
motion, I
motion.
make
You
a
want-
substitute motion to deny.
we got a substitute motion to deny. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor to deny, signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Item 23, order approving purchase agreement with Westerville Ecological Services for $50,000 to relocate 2 gopher tortoises from the proposed Veterans Boulevard construction corridor. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
$50,000
I know.
for 2 turtles.
Yes, ma'am.
I do it, I
That's
do it for
crazy.
$100
Up
apiece
here.
if they'll let me.
IMS will do it for free probably.
No, I ain't gonna do it for
I
free.
think you've
Not
got-
you, Moby.
Oh.
It is being paid out of the grant fund
Oh.
by the county.
Yes.
It was still, it's a lot of money for,
2 turtles. How big are these turtles?
They're not big. They're endangered species.
Doug,
I know they're.
I wanna ask you, did you find those turtles? Who found those turtles out there?
Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Who invited them? No, I'm just kidding.
It's part of the environmental process we go through. Believe me.
I'm just kidding.
I'm
Yes, sir.
kidding.
Yes, ma'am.
we have a
I
motion
understand.
and a second to pay $50,000 out of the grant,
And that's,
which is no cost to the county.
That's correct. And we've done it before.
All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Item 24, order approving payment of claims as listed as recommended by Jackie Turner at Harrison County PE. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Aye.
I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Item 25, order approving a subdivision application for Harrington subdivision located in Section 9, Township 6, South, Range 11, Supervisors Voting District 5, First Judicial District, as recommended by Jackie Turner, PE. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second? I'll second.
yes,
Oh,
sir.
sorry. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Madam,
All those opposed, motion carries.
Chancery,
He's
clerk
going
was
to-
asking for, to be recognized for a minute,
Okay.
so I request. to be recognized.
Madam President, board members, you're not paying elected officials. 5 constables will not be paid today.
They're elected officials.
Yeah. Constables are elected officials.
It means they're on the claims
And they're
docket.
They're on the claims
I know.
docket. So you got these, which is fuel man.
You missed the first part of that discussion.
I'm sorry, but you denied paying the
You
claims docket.
missed, the reason was, the first part of that discussion was that this was subject to all fee-based positions, and that's what Tim Holloman's supposed to find out for us, is that's the case or not. So, yeah,
Subject to fee-based, fee-paid officials?
that's what this is about,
So
supposedly.
you're denying,
No, we just tabled it
No,
for
we
a
tabled
week.
it till
oh,
Monday.
you're tabling it for a week, but they're not getting paid.
Well, they're gonna have to go till Monday,
Elected
6
officials.
days.
And you
No,
have, they're not getting paid, Beverly.
I didn't realize that, but I'm not going to jail.
That's
So,
not any,
You can't go to jail for that, man. You
No.
just
We gotta have some way for them to prove to us that all of these I's have been dotted and the T's are crossed. Not saying it's not illegal, I'm just saying I wanna be sure, based on what happened in Stone County a week ago, that we don't end up in the front page of the
Well,
paper.
exactly.
Arguably, we've been approving claims dockets for the last 3 or 4 months, we would be liable.
That's
for
true.
those.
Yeah.
25
So what
years.
difference is-
Madam President, may I say this?
Uh-huh.
Your Justice Court clerk, this is not county funds you would be liable for with constables. This is not appropriated funds that comes out of the taxpayers. This is from fees for service.
That's what the circuit clerk's deal was.
But this is the Justice Court clerk that submits what they collected, and these constables are entitled to their pay. They only pay once a month, and that's the first meeting of a board meeting. First Monday, excuse me.
what y'all wanna do?
I guess what I'm saying is, if you're gonna table this, the only reason that I can see that we table it, somebody's gonna have to review each item on that claims docket to see whether in fact it is.
Well, you could separate out the 5 constables if you wanted to.
Yeah, I
look at
think
those
we can.
individually, but you haven't looked.
That's the only ones that won't get the check.
Well, you got the circuit clerk, I gotta figure out what, she gets paid for
Probably
services.
include these on the board. It's correct. They can't go to jail unless you knowingly prove it.
Right.
I know.
But you can't be liable for it, which is what's going on in
Which
Stone
is,
County.
that's it.
So all the board, when you put them on the claims docket, when you put the constables on the claims docket, then the board does not have the opportunity to look at the backups to determine whether or not it's in order. Same thing with the circuit clerk.
The Justice Court clerk submits the fee schedule or the fees to the board every month for the constable. That's a backup.
Is it on the docket today?
It's on individual.
I just don't see
Our
how.
lawyers, each one of the lawyers review the claims docket so that we're not.
So don't pay them.
It's just 6 days.
Huh?
It's just 6 days to give him a chance.
Wait 6 days.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I think.
I understand. I'm just asking a question.
Madam President, Jennifer likes.
And there's an auditor back there raising her hand. She'll tell you.
The claims that come from the circuit clerk's office, from this circuit clerk's office, is attached with a court order signed by the judge. That is presented each month to the chancery clerk's office, and that is part of the backup documentation.
It's
And you're
on the agenda.
It's not the issue that we have, that Stone County had, because it is signed by a judge.
It is the issue, and
But
so are the
Jennifer,
fee-based things.
what you're saying to us is that those claims that's on that claims document in reference to the circuit clerk has been signed by the judge.
Yes.
Approval pay.
Yes.
What about all
Yes,
the
sir.
rest of it?
There is a certified court order.
Where? I'm sorry, but it's not on the agenda because I looked. The backup, not on the agenda. Somebody may have gotten it outside of this meeting, but as this board has
Well,
said over and over, it's not on the agenda, it's not in the minutes. It's not there.
It's on the claims docket, and it is scanned through the bookkeeping imaging system. that's
Well,
in
it's not
Chancery
here that we
Department.
can see it.
So why don't
Would you like me to walk
It's a
over and
week.
bring you the backup on that one particular?
No, I'd like to move on the agenda.
But
since
before we
we've
move
already
on,
voted
I
on
just
it.
wanna make a motion that we separate the constable's pay and pay them, that just.
And the circuit clerk.
Yeah, the circuit clerk. They're supposed to count on their money.
Why don't we bring the backup?
Well, I'll be glad.
I don't want to pay my paycheck.
Thank y'all for giving me an opportunity.
I think there's a problem. It's not this board's fault there's a problem. It's just what happens in Stone County.
So we can go
for cautious about it.
Item 26 while we're waiting.
Yeah.
I can take that off the table.
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion to
Well,
take it up.
we gotta look at the backup
Well,
first.
wait, he can bring back those individuals in the board and make a motion to bring those specific ones back on.
Okay, so in the meantime, item 26, order approving payment of claims. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Item 27, discuss progress of West Biloxi boat launch. Miss Jackie, can you give me an update? I've been asked by several people.
I'm gonna apologize ahead of time, I've been fighting a sinus infection, it's not as loud as I can get, but yes, ma'am.
So what's going on? What's happened up?
So we've got, we did our final, design review, we went through and made all the changes that needed to be made. And that last issue, with the easement not connecting to Camellia Road. I know that Mr. Holloman has been trying to reach out to the Coplans and get, that resolved. I don't think that that's,
Have not been able to reach this man, but you know.
It's
we have.
resolved. The city said they took care of it. Did they not tell you that?
No.
Because that's been resolved.
The what?
It's been resolved, I
Oh,
think,
so-
for
okay.
some time now.
Think Peter knows about it?
Yeah.
I'll call Peter.
Okay.
With that-
How's the permitting process going?
everything's finished with permits. We just need to resolve that last thing and,
Why can't we just go ahead and start the dredging and put it in and then resolve that? Which I think.
well, we can advertise for bids. If y'all wanna authorize advertising for bids, we can move forward like that.
Okay. So I'll make a motion, we advertise for bids to get going on a 2-year-old project. Do we have a second?
Second.
We don't need a
Discussion.
title, please.
All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
What'd
We
you
don't
say,
need the
Ken?
title.
No title, please.
We'll need.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Ms. Jackie.
Thank you.
Okay, item 28, discuss move-in date on Senior Resource Department to Old Court Building A. Do we have a timeline? Is Ms. Eunice here? No. Pam,
Let's you and I, if you don't mind, go over there.
Well, we just redid it. Willie's finished.
Oh,
He's
yeah, no,
already
I've been
set.
there every day
He's
almost. I
finished.
just wanted to-
So we need to figure out, it's gonna take 3 weeks to get those phone lines dropped.
Okay.
And we need to, they put the stickies on the doors on where they're going. So.
Well, that's what,
what's-
okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're on number 28.
I'm sorry.
So we need to give them a timeline and get them out of that sand beach department and into where we promised them they could go. Into a decent building. Are you gonna get with the units and find out what the deal is?
We're waiting on them.
I don't know what we're waiting on.
I don't know what we're waiting on either,
We
but,
finished the building, it's good to go. The
but there are
floors
some
in.
things that I'm bored one with now, but there are some things I wanna go show you and, that may, you know, building B is right there.
Building B's not big enough, we already looked at that, it only
Well,
had 6 offices.
No,
and
it
they
has
need-
not, it has not.
they
Well,
need
anyway,
to-
let's go over there and.
But
look
we've
at it.
we'd already beat this horse. I mean, I'm sorry, because we went with, this was pre-Miss Jeannie, with Miss Eunice and them.
Oh, I know.
She counted the office space. The B building is not big enough and will not work. So the A building had plenty of space for everybody. Now, I don't know what the holdup is for getting them in there, and I'm sure they don't either.
And they've been working there a long
And
time.
they've been over there
Do you have
and
any
saying,
information on that?
Beach.
No, as far as I know,
crazy.
we were looking
No
for
one's
the
telling
phone
me.
lines. The phone lines can't be transferred, their original phone lines, because that's part of Sand Beach. But they have enough old numbers, the 7,000 numbers, that they can pull through and get those. But Bobby and them, he's set up, the IT's set up, everything's ready, so all we have to do is.
So it's the phones holding
So
it
the
up?
phones, they'll just have to use the same.
So do we need a
they'll have
motion to
old
go ahead
numbers.
and do the phones? I'll make the motion, we go ahead and get the
They
phone
just have to have
lines
the
set
phone
up.
lines.
Do
They
what?
can't buy phones, they have to have new phones.
We got a motion and a second, set up all the phones and get them moved. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
So
Now,
they're gonna move, they can move in the meantime till they get the new phone.
But they
They don't have
can't
phone,
move
they
in
don't
without
have, they don't have
phone.
phone system.
The
They have-
old- I thought you
they
said
have to
something about
have
the old
phone-
system.
A phone system, they have to order a phone system, and the numbers, they could probably transfer a number in the meantime, but their old numbers into, if they get the phone system put in.
Okay.
okay, so we authorize Robbie by that motion to get going on that, right?
Well,
Okay, good.
we gotta get Karen to go after.
They
that
can
guy.
still start, can they not start moving their stuff in there though?
Well, why
Anyway?
would they without a phone?
Well, they'd have
They
to.
need
Well, I mean, things that are non-essential, like filing cabinets and all that.
Well, they probably have to
whatever
work
it
out.
may be.
Yeah, they probably work. Connie said probably, it'd be 2 or 3
Well, I will tell you,
weeks.
there's, in their storage room,
Well, there's no
they have a
storage.
whole wall of boxes from 2004, 2005, and 2006, so we can help them get those into storage. There's a bunch of
Get
crud
rid
that they
of
don't
that.
use that we can
Get
chunk,
rid of all
yeah.
that.
They probably-
So you're right, Connie, they
they
can
could
start.
probably-
That's what I thought, thank you.
Anyway, I'm just worried about
Thank you,
them.
ma'am.
I don't want them to go through another election. Speaking of elections.
Well,
item
and Beverly, if you and I could go back over there, because there's
I would
been
like to.
furniture and there's been a few things I wanna like show you.
Okay.
And speaking of
Can't compare
elections, don't forget, Building and Grounds is moved, but that is an election. That is an election.
They're aware of that, and I think they've worked that out. On the end, they're not using it for the precinct.
Well, that needs to be the
Something
brick
like that.
part that's always been
That's it,
there,
yeah.
the brick office, the first, yeah.
We need to
That's
tell
it.
your election commissioner though, so she'll know.
Well, it's not moved, the election shouldn't be moved.
No, she'll know there's other people. Okay, number 29. Speaking of
It
election
should be just
commission.
like it is.
Order approving the request of the election commission to add 5 additional days beyond the 190 days as set out in Mississippi Code 2315-153 to perform voter rolls maintenance. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Is there a
Second.
second? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Item 30, order approving the participation of Harrison County in the development of District 9 Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a
Second.
second? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Item 31, Order designating Matthew Stratton and Teresa Heidick to represent Harrison County in all matters pertaining to the development of District 9 Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. What's the cost of this, is Maddie? I'm sorry. I thought I saw
The
those costs.
item 30 and 31 are related to our intent to participate. So we do not yet have a cost until all the jurisdictions who are saying that they will participate, and then they'll be able to apportion out how much will be for each jurisdiction. So we don't have a cost until all the intents are received.
Is that all?
So then you come back.
All the lower 6 counties and the cities have been invited to participate, and most of them did 4 years ago.
So then you'll come back and we'll vote on
Correct,
that.
yes, ma'am. Right, so this is just our intent to participate. We're not obligated to paying anything yet.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Zoning administration, item 32.
I have a request that item 2 be taken off of this agenda. It has been appealed and it'll come back up when the transcripts are ready.
Which one?
Which one?
Is
The
that
first
zoning
one.
change at 53?
Highway 53, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
I know.
Which item is that?
The first one, number 32.
That's being appealed, I thought.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so is there a motion to table item 32 based on the knowledge that we have an appeal?
Table, take off the table.
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 Isn't that what you're asking?
Yes, ma'am.
Table.
So we need a motion to table item 32.
Motion to table item
Do
32.
we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
Item 33 and 34 are regular cases before the planning commission. We'd ask that you concur with the recommendations with the planning commission.
Could I, table
Motion.
number 34, just, 'cause I haven't
All right, let's do 33 first.
Okay.
Order concurring with the planning commission to approve case file 2109HC173. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second, it's good. That's 32 and 33, right? Just
No, no, 33.
Just 33.
Just 33.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Now we got item 34, Supervisor Rocco.
I'd like to motion to table number 34.
Based on,
Based on the chance, I haven't had a chance to review it as well as I'd like to. I think I should.
okay, there's a motion by Supervisor
Where
Rocco.
is this exactly? Which one is this?
Item
Taylor
34.
Road.
Second.
Oh, local home, okay.
And we got a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 35, order spreading on the minutes of personnel changes of the sheriff's office as listed on file with the payroll clerk. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Item 36, order concurring with the county administrator on employment as listed on file with the payroll clerk. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Skip
All those
35.
opposed,
Skip.
motion carries. Okay, I'm sorry. She says I skipped 35. Order spreading on the minutes. I did that, didn't I?
I made the motion, Kelly second, or
Sorry.
Kent second.
Sorry.
So now we're on 37. Order concurring with the road manager on employment as listed and as on file with the payroll clerk and personnel department. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Order approving claims as listed to be paid from the tort account. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Item 39, order approving the sole source purchase from Votech Corp. in the amount of $29,160 for electronic poll books. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
I do have a question, Mayor. Oh, he's gone. Only sole source purchases software. It's obvious that a particular software is sole source purchase, but is there a software that could be substituted for that?
Not for this particular one.
Not for this particular one?
This is for election, for the election equipment, for the software.
So it has to fit in,
For the program itself.
because all software is proprietary.
This is for the VOTEC, for the voting software.
Okay, I just want to clarify that.
And I apologize, can I amend the agenda to move item 58 up? Mr. McDonald has been sitting patiently back there, and I apologize, I did not see him till just now. So I'd like to skip to item 58, order concurring with the resolution of the Mississippi Coast Coliseum Commission approving consideration of proposed nonprofit agreement in connection with Provident Resources Group or its affiliate financing, designing, developing, owning, and operating a convention center hotel for the benefit of the Coliseum. Do we have a
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Tim, y'all looked at the resolution, you seen?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
You just-
Second.
You're gonna take further action. This is just.
This is just concurring with the resolution. Any further discussion? Matt, you got something?
It's just
First of all,
clarification.
this just gets us moving in the right direction. Before any lease is signed, that will be presented to y'all for y'all scrutiny, and this just gives them the necessary tools they need to where they can do their due diligence to get us a lease.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
All those in favor,
Well done.
signify by
I got a box of
aye.
popcorn coming. I got a box of popcorn coming.
Come on, man. I want to see it to believe it. Thank you. I'm sorry, man.
No, that's okay. Hey, look, I enjoyed watching y'all. You brought back old memories.
I bet it did. Memories or nightmares?
Thank you.
All right, right now,
This show's gonna have to
let's
stop being
recognize the
free.
sheriff's
We're gonna have to
reports on the
stop
number of
charging.
custodians.
Me?
Yeah, number 4.
Currently, we have 706, have 31 misdemeanors, 113 females, 22 that have cleared state arrest, and 30 federal inmates.
Thank you. Item 41.
Did we take
order-
action on 39, vote on 39?
Yes.
We did.
We did?
For the resolution, we did.
I'm sorry.
I'll assume you voted aye. Item 41, order authorizing the Chancery Clerk to issue a check for $9,300 to Robert Drace Narcotics Division for Gulfport Office of Homeland Security Investigations. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have a discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Item 42, order authorizing the replenishment of petty cash by money account in the name of Robert Drace. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Item.
John, sorry.
Real quick, I got an answer for y'all. And we'll have a solution for this in the future, I hope. That'll make you comfortable. I don't know, first we'll talk about the circuit clerk claim. I heard some, I listened to the meeting. It mentioned not a court order. Okay, am I correct?
That was what happened in Stone County.
Okay. Well, this is statutory for second judicial district clerks. This is statutory allowed.
Right.
John, I think Tim said it would, he just didn't see it.
It
I
wasn't
know,
in
but
our
that's what I
backup.
want to make a solution. Hopefully, we can have a solution so it won't have you nervous in the future.
Well, we'll get a better solution come Monday whenever he has time to
I hate to say
research
that,
what
but I already
happened.
researched it while we were sitting here.
Oh, did you?
AG's office says the board is personally liable. to
Personally
approve the claims document.
responsible.
And there are unauthorized expenditures on there.
So this is unauthorized?
No.
Okay.
I'm not saying anything's unauthorized.
But I just want
Slow
to,
down.
just gonna have to-
I want to make y'all comfortable in the future. We just got to have how we can submit this to you.
Understand what the question
not-
is, so you'll know, so you won't be upset about it. Stone County,
I know, I read the article.
okay.
I read the article, and
Circuit
let me
clerk.
give you a little history behind that. Every circuit court clerk in the county tried to help him.
I understand that.
We had judges meet with him personally, trying to straighten out his issues. So,
The
to
problem
put-
is, the board, he put his claims on the docket. Probably a claims docket, I don't know that yet.
yeah,
We did.
The board approved them without a court order. Some of these don't require a court order, that's different. The one that he got indicted for, there was a requirement that he have a court order approving the fees, and then the board had to approve it. What happened is, I understand it, I hadn't read it yet, I read the auditor's letter. Now, hopefully we'll have more information by the end of the week. The board approved them without a court order. So now they've made demands where there was no court order on the board members to pay back that money.
Oversight.
They're
My understanding, I have not
payback.
seen that yet.
But do you see the circuit clerk's
Personally.
claims
Right.
today?
Right. Right, the only question that came up today was, is the claims document is a massive document that doesn't have backups to it.
Always has been. I mean,
That-
not saying
We
that.
gotta change it.
Well, how do you gonna change something like that?
I
We
don't
don't
know.
have.
I
Hold
don't know
on.
if you need to ask the auditor, because he's the one holding us personally responsible for everything.
I think, I'm not gonna make an opinion about him, but anyway. I can say that a lot of times they throw a lot of this stuff out, especially the board members. To me, I don't think the board members are liable in that case, but anyway.
Well, I hope not. I
Yeah.
agree with you. but we'll
I have the
find out.
constables too, if you wanna see it, and that's submitted by your court clerk.
How do we know they observe every page?
So that's a report from the court. It's not a report from the constables asking to be paid. The court's saying this is a settlement. These constables are entitled to this.
I know, but the issue is, where is the paper that says the court said it's okay to pay them?
That's all they're
He
That's all I
submits it.
need.
He signs off on every
Well, where
every
is it?
constable,
I'm
right
sorry.
there in front. Oh, I gotta hand it out.
No.
Sorry.
The claims docket backup, it doesn't go on the agenda.
I
It's-
know,
it's
but that's what we're
printed.
trying to decide, if
Right.
it needs to go on the agenda.
I hate
because
that y'all
I'm not writing a
worried
$36,000
about this,
check.
I got you.
They're not worried about that, they think anything in Harrison County is wrong, they're just trying.
Well, they didn't
Be
approve the
sure.
claims docket, Tim.
They asked, they did not.
Because they
Tabled it
want
so they could look at it.
Okay,
Because
that's
they
what I
want to know.
And I,
Because
what
they
I
want-
wanna know is you tell me, how you want this done in the future so you won't have any worry.
That's what we're trying to figure
See,
out.
this don't
I don't know
have
how you're gonna do it.
John, I see this all the time, I see their report. They just submit it,
They don't
this
get
is
that.
submitted to us.
The just court-
I see this.
Right. But that's who you will not want to pay this, if you hold it.
It's
They
not
can't-
just-
Wait,
It's not
wait,
that you
I'm
don't wanna
sorry,
pay
I'm
them.
sorry.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's not just them.
these are elected officials, I defend
Oh,
elected
well.
officials. They're entitled, so is the circuit clerk. So when you hold this and wait another 7 days, I don't think that's fair to them.
Well, I can't,
John, what is it, what is this?
this is
Is
one.
that what you just gave me?
Yeah, that came from the circuit clerk. There was only
What
2
does
checks
that
issued.
tell me?
Exactly. It's blank.
I'm seeing what the activity is per section, revision
Right,
of
that's-
registration books, for
That's
the
all
month of September,
statutory.
Total 1,000, what is that
What is it
telling me
paying?
though? That doesn't tell me that that's a.
Justin submits it to the Chancery Clerk, to the treasurer.
Well, that's good, but how do I know what county vendor license 306 drive that we're paying for $17,500 for the month of September? What is this for?
Please recognize
It's blank.
Justin.
I'm
He's the
talking
accountant
to
up there.
Justin.
Justin,
So
don't
what,
know. He's not
can
gonna
you
know
tell
either.
me who we paid this much money to?
Those are all just by statute that Connie is.
I don't care about statute. Who did that check get written to? This $17,500. Who was that check written
That's
to?
not the check, that's what she's allowed by statute for the whole year. We divide it by 12 months.
Who
Like
is
that
she?
in monthly installments.
Who is she?
Connie
Connie Ladner.
So this money went to Connie Ladner?
Correct.
That's
The
what I'm
fee
asking.
account.
Into her fee account.
That's
by
what I'm
statute.
asking.
Yes, ma'am.
But there's nowhere on there that says.
But nowhere on here does it say that. So if you look at this, you're like,
Top left corner, it says Connie Ladner on there, top left corner. And account with Connie Ladner.
an account with, that don't mean payable to.
I just think that, I don't know, I'm not concerned with that end of it. I just want to make sure that the
Sure.
judge sign off on things. I'm not concerned where it
So
goes.
the judge didn't sign off on some of these. We gotta.
So what I'm
That's
saying,
fine.
that's my point, is the judge doesn't sign, if the constables pay and the circuit clerks pay, does the judge sign off on that?
Yeah, the judge signs a constable pay, right?
I'd have to look
Well,
at
the
it.
clerk
I'd have to
does.
look at that.
The clerk?
The clerk settles the fees collected for
So
processing.
this doesn't have to go to the judge then?
I don't
No.
know. I'd have to look at the statute.
We gotta ask our
Tim,
attorney, he
Tim.
doesn't know.
Can you look at the statute, review the statute, talk to the
Report
auditor?
back to his money.
Please, just talk
Yeah,
to the
but-
auditor as
what
well,
he's gonna do.
explain to him the situation that we're
Yeah,
in,
but-
so that we can move on next week.
I just,
You're
It's
not
gonna be
in any
7
si-
days.
yeah.
It's
Not
You're
7
not in
days,
any
6 actually.
situation. I'm serious. I wouldn't be up here telling you that.
I'm not in favor of holding those constables paid. I mean, I would want my check.
It's 6 days.
It's
I don't
not
care.
just the
It's not-
constables, it's everybody.
No, but
Every
these are the
check
ones,
he's got in his
these-
hand over there.
But these are employees, these elected officials, I would want my pay. I would
Well,
want the
they're all
board.
elected
Yeah,
officials,
there's a
the
policy
elected
that
officials.
they
have
pay on
got
a certain
full
date.
diet.
Paid on that.
On that claims docket, you have Mississippi Power, you have Fuel Man, you have all that you do business with monthly.
I bet if we ask the constables, they would not mind waiting a week while we find out this was done.
I don't,
I would bet on that one.
I mean, yeah, I might would say okay, but I
I mean,
wouldn't
if
like
I
it.
was making $100,000
All right, let me
a
ask you,
year, I
let's
think
clear
Can I
this
say,
up.
can I say one thing to the board, just to give you, look, if, we've been doing it this way for 10 years I've been here. So you're already, if it's wrong,
That's
y'all
right.
already in
It's
a.
like 10
boat
years.
Yeah, I was
trouble.
gonna say, not
One
today.
more week approval ain't gonna hurt the constables or the circuit clerk. I don't think they're doing it wrong, I don't mean to imply that. I understand the board's concern, because I'm concerned too, that ultimately the claims are not, there's no backup, so the board is not getting an opportunity to look at them. I know that's gotta be, figure out how to do that. You just wanna be able to look at it, determine whether or not, at least be able to say, I looked at it, and it's my fault I didn't approve it if I looked at it. But what happened in Stone County, unfortunately, I don't know this yet, but I'm assuming that the circuit clerk's bills were on the claims docket. And so the board members were not getting, they didn't know that there wasn't a court order, they just knew that there was a claim submitted. And so they approved it. Now, they haven't been held liable yet. They've only gotten a demand from the state auditor.
To pay back
$30,000
each.
each.
And so, just because they made that demand does not mean they're liable. I've dealt with these
Well, it
folks
looks bad.
before, so we'll,
It sure makes them uncomfortable.
It made them look bad.
They got a
certainly made them look
It
bad.
made 'em look bad in the
That's
paper.
unfortunate. I think a lot of people were upset about it, that the auditor did that. But all this board's trying to do is to be cautious to figure out, to make sure they're the ones that are personally liable. So what's
In
wrong?
Harrison County,
In Harrison County, they're still.
Stone County, I think, I don't know what happened up there, but this
But that's
is
why we wanna
legitimate.
make sure.
Everything that we go through the
We don't
county
doubt that
administrator.
for a minute.
Okay.
We don't doubt it for a minute, John, that it's legitimate, but these board members have a right to look at it and make a decision
I don't like
themselves
it.
whether they want to vote for it or not. And without the information, they can't do that.
That's
Well,
right.
So we gotta figure out how to get them the information to be able to make their decision. What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
Well, what's wrong with it is that you're not doing business like you normally do.
Because
You're
of-
gonna hold
well,
up,
That's
Just get them
right.
up.
That's correct.
and it's a safe issue. I wouldn't be here telling you that.
I mean, if the board wants to, it can separate out the constables and
I'd like to
separate
do
out the
that.
circuit clerk and vote on those.
What if the constables aren't serving the papers
I
and
would
they
like to
say
know.
Oh, my
that, and they
goodness.
say that
Oh,
we
my
are?
That's the kind of one, I just
I
think
don't
they
know if
supposed
you're
to.
liable for that. I'd have to go look at the statute. There's a difference.
Well, we don't go with them on a day-to-day basis, and
All
that's
right,
basically
let me
what
say
they-
this, if you don't trust elected officials, I am sorry for you.
Right.
I
Wait a
trust
minute, they
them,
take
but
it-
obviously, something happened
In Stone County.
in Stone
This is-
County, and now the supervisors are the ones
I
that are
understand that,
at
but we're
risk.
talking about
That's
elected
right.
officials.
That's the
That
point we're
wasn't
trying to
Let
make.
me finish.
That's right.
Elected
Have
officials,
to.
right here, these constables take an oath just like you
Just
do.
saying. So does the circuit clerk.
They
so
serve
does
the papers, there's a record of that, posted, personally served, comes back to the court, they're justified to be paid.
I wasn't saying just them. We're talking about
said
the entire
everybody,
claims docket,
including these two
not
backups.
just
What kind of motion? I
constables.
want to just make a motion.
Go ahead, make
Take it
a
out,
motion.
take it out towards the, take it
Docket,
the
consider the
the,
constables separate.
constables
And
and
the
the
circuit clerk.
Yes.
Well, that's who the, what's the problem up in Stone County?
But if she has, I understand.
I just.
Go ahead and make your
yeah,
motion,
I'd
we'll
like to
just
make a
vote it up
motion
or
that
down.
we, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you have all these checks printed now. We're gonna void all these
No,
checks.
you just sit on them for a week. You don't have to void all
Well-
those checks.
I think,
I'll just wait a week, then mail them. How about that? You don't have to
I'm
void them.
gonna refer to the auditor.
She's not the payroll clerk, is she?
No, this is not
Oh,
payroll.
not payroll, you're right. Sorry.
If it's not approved on this day, then he's right, they would need to be voided and issued on the day that they're approved.
Trace.
Okay, well, so be it. Go ahead with your motion.
I wanna make a motion to separate the constable and circuit clerk's pay to, approve paying them today at this board meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Okay, next.
Thank you.
What number are we on? 43. Order approving mileage reimbursement for in-county travel for the following employees.
Motion.
Do you have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Item 44, consider approving reimbursement of in-county travel for the following employees. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
Just,
Jane.
if I may, I know we tired of hearing about it, but I'm just curious, we just approved that mileage pay for that person. I know that.
Yeah, they want that mileage.
Now, wait a minute, I know that they sign off on that they get the mileage. If that paper is falsified, if they put extra miles on it and all that, and we just approved it, is this board liable to pay back that money?
Well, the supervisor signed off on
This,
this. This would be
this-
similar to what
That's
happened.
what I'm
in
saying.
tax
Whoever's
collector.
doing whatever, it's all getting signed on, but, you know,
The
my point,
problem we're dealing with
my
is
point that I'm trying to make is that
even the auditor's letter that I have, which is only a page or page and a half, from Stone County, what he's referring to is an unauthorized expenditure. And clearly, the board of supervisors approves an unauthorized
Just don't prove nothing.
claim, then it is, the board can be personally liable. Now, why it was unauthorized in that case is important. It was unauthorized because the statute says you shall have a court order and approval of the board of supervisors. It got submitted without the court order, so the board approved it without a court order, therefore it was unauthorized because the statute says you have. Right now, if you have an employee who falsifies
that's what I'm getting.
his mileage statement, that is not an unauthorized expenditure. It's a false expenditure because he lied. Or
That's
she
what
got
I'm trying to say.
I'm not picking on this person, by the way, 'cause I don't know anything.
Yeah, I'm
So,
not that.
so in my opinion, that would not be what I would call an unauthorized signature. So a fraudulent claim that you don't know is fraudulent,
Okay.
would, in my opinion, not be.
Gotcha.
Now, the auditor may disagree with me on that. I'm just one lawyer, but, and we've fought before, that, you know, you can't, there's no way this board has any, the claim documents, 300 claims. There's no way that a board member.
It's more than that from
Well, I'm
time to
just,
time.
it said 300 when it started, and
Yeah.
I said, so 300, there's no way to go through 300 claims on every piece of paper.
And verify that it happened and.
And I was not insinuating that the constables were not serving, but
Agreed.
how in the world did a board of supervisors,
No.
part-time elected officials, go door to door with them and make sure that everyone was served, or that whatever they
And
said?
I don't think
I
that
don't-
was the
I don't
case in
understand.
Stone County. I think the case in Stone County, what I said, it was an unauthorized approval because the board did not have the order of the court that set the fees that they were authorized to be paid. Therefore, it became unauthorized, and the board was, should have,
But
that should
been
have
an
been,
oversight.
that should have been caught. Now, the problem is, and I feel the same way y'all do, these claims somehow or another, like, and certainly not picking on Connie, because I don't think
No, it's-
Connie do
it's
anything
any
wrong.
fee-based.
But we don't, we're getting an
It's all-
invoice, and we're not looking at I'm not looking at the statute to see what it requires to be with that invoice. Now Connie I did talk to Connie, because she was
Connie
concerned.
Ladner, make sure you say that.
Connie Ladner. She called me and said she wanted to come to the board, explain what she does and what she's providing to support her claims, and I said, well, why don't you wait till I see what's in the Stone County case? So she's gonna come and explain to you, what she does, and then the question is, you know, you rely on me. You know, if I make a mistake, then, you know, unfortunately, the board can, but I would be liable too. So, it's just a risk that is somewhat, there's nothing you can do about it. It comes with the territory.
Do you understand the
Yes.
point we were making?
Yes.
If we have to make sure that the circuit clerk is doing her job and to make sure that John's doing his job and make sure, how are we going to do, that's,
They're not-
that's impossible.
Again, keep in mind that that's not what the case is about it.
I am.
There's no court order, and that made that expenditure, without a court order, it could not be paid, period. It was unauthorized. It doesn't mean where somebody's doing something wrong and you don't know they're doing it wrong, and you find out they did it, that you're personally liable.
Well,
Unless you knew
the
about it.
supervisor I talked to said they did, whoever this person was doing something wrong, but not on purpose. He just didn't know any better. And they didn't know that he didn't know any better.
Was it over-
But everybody's name was on front page of the paper.
Oh, yeah.
And all of them, some were criminal and some were not, but they still had to pay the money
It's
back.
gonna be a very difficult thing to review the entire claims docket paper by paper, because there's not a lot of backup. You're dependent upon your purchase.
And just how much backup are we gonna demand?
That's
All
right.
Well, I'm gonna start asking more. Item 45, here we go again. Order approving the claims as listed.
Well, there's backup for these.
Okay, do we have a motion?
How do we know backup's an
Do we have a second? Any
Now, how do I know that
discussion?
you were on that phone that long, that
That's
John,
right.
Tim?
I usually don't put any phone calls. You never see phone calls. It's three.
All those opposed, motion carries. Item 46, order taken off the table, proposal of Capital Resource LLC to provide consulting and support services to the county's government-related initiatives. Do we have a
Motion.
motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Item 47, consider proposal of Capital Resource LLC to provide consulting and support services to the county's government-related initiatives. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second? Any
Discussion, why do we need two lobbyists?
Well, these guys are gonna be more on federal looking for grant money, is what we were, my understanding.
Yeah.
And I'd like to give them a shot at it, just to see how they do.
What they were saying, I thought they were lobbyists working in the with the legislature.
They have, they
I'm not
do have a
very-
lobbying arm, but from what I understand, talking to Ms. Hester, they have just expanded their services to include national as well as other funding resources. So it could be grants, it could be other programs, research outlets, whatever happens to be out there.
And is their fee based on the percentage of grants that we get?
No, because you can't do that.
That's not allowed,
It's not
unfortunately.
allowed.
I wish it were.
So the fee is flat and it is $90,000, I believe,
Oh.
for a year.
But this firm has brought in millions and millions for other
And
entities,
if they don't
not in the
produce, we
counties,
just
but.
get rid of them.
We don't, I never hear from our other lobbyists.
How long are we gonna give them a chance to produce?
A year.
I've
Since
I
4
must
years.
been operating under a misimpression because I thought that grant writers were paid based on the
That's if we
amount of
hire
grant.
them.
What?
No,
I
that's
wish.
illegal.
It's
You
illegal.
cannot-
I tried to do that with
yeah,
two other
me
charities
too.
in the
It's
past.
illegal now?
It's-
Administrative fee, SMPDD.
That's what you do, you see, and I was doing a
I
CASA, I tried
don't
to.
pay SMPDD unless they write a grant.
I'm telling you, you cannot pay them out of the grant.
Right.
No, I pay them out of the
They
grant.
have an administration fee.
I pay them, only when they write a grant for me is when I pay them.
That's my point.
And they're getting paid up
If
for
they're gonna get
administration.
a $5 million grant, I'm willing to pay them a certain amount for that, but I'm not willing to pay them automatically $90,000 and have no assurance as to how much and how many grants we're gonna receive.
Yeah, I
That
think-
doesn't make sense to me.
I thought we
If
already
they
had
wanna,
SMPDD
if we
on.
wanna draw up
Yeah.
a contract with this company, and in that contract, it says you get us $5 million grant, we're willing to pay some sort of percentage out of our funds for that, it would be worth it maybe.
Well, you
But just to
can't pay out of
automatically
your
contract
grant
with it for
funds.
$90,000 a year.
There's usually
Well,
an administrative.
I'm
it's
not
an
for that.
administrative fee is what they usually would charge anyway. So I guess if we say that, we can say, okay, if you get this grant for us, then you'll be the administrator. And you can get the fee out
That's my
of it.
point,
Right.
however a legal contract with these
I don't think
people,
it does either.
that
don't
once
think it
they,
work like that?
but just to give them
I think
a
it's-
$90,000 a year payment
This guy
with no
has the
assurances,
administration fee attached.
that dog won't hunt with
I
me.
thought SMPDD was doing
If
this.
they get a
well,
grant,
let's-
they're gonna do the administration fee, and they're gonna do it themselves, they get the grant. SMP, it would be the one that administer, they're not gonna get a grant, and then someone else to administer it.
So we
My
get two,
understanding.
three
So then they
people,
don't.
we get two people looking
So
for
let's
grant?
just call the question then. Yes, we got a motion and a second.
Or what we can,
Have in favor signify by aye.
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 I would, okay, go ahead, I'll just vote no.
All those opposed?
No, I'm voting no.
We got one no, I'm waiting on these two. Aye, yes or
Who
no?
else?
No, I know this is not the right time to do it, but I would like to see
you
if,
say aye?
Second for discussion.
yeah, I would like to, one more thing I want to add to that. I would like to go back to them and see if in fact, if they get the grant, can the grant administration fee could be how we pay them.
That's
move
not
to
allowed. I've tried. I've
No, we
gone
don't
to-
table it.
I'm about the administrative fee, and the administrative fee is not, there's an administrative fee that come out of every grant.
I thought so, I maybe
And that's
misunderstanding.
what I'm confused about. Tim?
We got a,
You
we
Trish,
got,
with that?
I move to table.
I was
you're
reading.
gonna substitute motion to table?
Yes, ma'am.
What do we do?
Is there a second?
On the,
Guys, for lack of a second,
Hey, I
there's no
like-
motions on the floor.
yeah, but I was still under
Move to table.
discussion.
Keep substitute.
I was under the impression that if someone gets a grant, there's an administrative fee automatically attached to that grant.
There aren't some of them, they allow administrative fees.
Some
Good
don't.
on the grant. Well, no, we just did the housing thing, they have their fees paid out of the grant.
Yes.
We hired them, they didn't get the grant, we got the grant, and we hired them to administer it.
Right.
These people are supposedly gonna go.
Because I don't know anything about it.
Find it.
Okay, so why don't we
I
have
don't think they could do a
Hester,
contingency on getting grants, I agree with that.
if you don't mind, because Connie hasn't, she's not aware of it either. and they're
Okay,
gonna see-
so
Maybe we can ask Ms.
she's
Hester to
got
come here,
a
because you and I heard
motion on the
from.
floor to table. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
And then can we get her on the agenda? Because if you see
Okay,
their
I'll-
track
I'll make a
record, y'all, I
motion.
think you'll understand we need heavy hitters.
I make a motion that we,
We already got a motion and it passed. To
Okay.
table her,
I am-
bring her to the next.
okay, bring it to the next meeting, as long as she's on the next meeting.
If she comes, if she comes. Yeah, or we could zoom her in, so. Okay, item
I would
48.
suggest, part of the discussion, we voted on it, but I'd suggest that when people want to do something like this, they come before the board and not talk to one or two, and we don't know what the world's going on.
Right.
My point
Oh,
is,
that's true.
And she
Well,
did
I-
offer
well,
that.
I
She
read-
did.
offer-
Our
she
apologies.
when
did
I
offer
read,
that.
they're a lobbying firm. It's a
They are.
we
that's
already
what- that's
paying
what they
somebody
do.
to lobby.
They do that too.
And I'm not prepared to pay them a salary if they want to, if they want some sort of contract arranged with the county, I'm willing to do that. And when they get grants, pay them for some percentage of that grant. But not just automatically throw
I
out
kinda like their
$90,000 to
lobbying
these
service
people,
too.
that doesn't make
Right,
sense.
and with all due respect, we need a real lobby. I mean, I haven't seen any true lobbying. I mean, with all due respect. And Tim, can you do me a favor? And Sheriff says he does grants and pays, not from the grant, but a percentage. I've tried with two of my
I
guys
have
there,
too.
it was they said,
They
you
said
may
no.
not. So which is it?
I don't think I will look at that, I don't think
Thank
he said he
you.
pays a percentage, he just only pays them if they get the grant, so it's contingent, it's not a percentage, it's just a.
Right, but customarily, you'll say, if you
That's
give me
what
$1
we
million,
can-
I'll give you 10%, but it can't come from the
Right.
grant
I
money,
tell you
it'll
what
come
you
from
can
my
do,
own
you
money,
can
but.
pay, rather than paying them $90,000, of course, I don't know what their qualifications are, they might have some insight that others
They
don't.
have-
Hire a grant writer for $60,000 and save 30 and get the grant.
I've been asking for a grant writer since day one, I just want that on the
We
record.
need a grant.
Why don't we hire one?
We need one.
Well,
Yeah,
why
but
don't we
remember-
wait and get this lady
Yeah,
back?
let's
See if
get
she can
her.
do it.
They don't want, I mean, they don't want to work just for the county.
But they did promise to only work for this
That was
municipality.
my selling point with them. That's what I
Beverly, yeah.
brought in. Because there was only one county they were gonna work for, and it's gonna be us, because we're gonna be conflicted with other counties, you watch. Number
All right.
48, order approving the co-op service agreement between Harrison County and USDA APHIS Wildlife Services for Beaver Control Program. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Item 49, order approving the amended direct deposit policy. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second. Second.
Discussion, do we need to act on this now? I didn't see the amendment, I tried to pull it up, where it says.
It's short.
The amendment, I never could pull the amendment up, so I don't know what the amendment
It
is.
should have been attached on the file, but the only thing I would
Did
like
y'all,
to
were
point out.
y'all able to pull
I'd like
it
to
up?
rescind my second, I'm sorry. I didn't hear what you were talking about, sorry.
It should have been attached to the file, that's how I reviewed it Friday
I didn't
afternoon.
get it.
So, we're talking about approving the
I
amended
just asked.
amendment to direct deposit policy. The amendment is they now have to go in person to change their banking information, and
Oh,
this is
yeah, I
based
don't have a
on,
problem with
Yes.
that.
this is based on what happened when we had another employee
I don't
that
have.
it was not confirmed,
That's
they
good
got
enough.
an email and
That's
changed
good
it.
enough.
That's
That-
what this is amendment.
Perfect. That's
That
good.
is correct, however,
That's
there
what this
is
is
language.
amendment.
Wait, please.
There is language in this amended that contradicts a subsequent board order that the board approved in March of 2019. In
Which
this
was-
amendment, it talks about direct deposit being voluntary. However, in March of 2019, the board made it mandatory for new hires to go direct deposit. So that was my only concern. Yes,
Well,
the internal control,
why
Why
making
not
sure.
take that voluntary part out of the
Yeah,
amendment?
just take participation is voluntary, it's 3 words.
We would have
Scratch
to
the
do
3
that.
words.
Yeah.
So,
Take it out of the
I would
amendment?
suggest, because it contradicts the subsequent order that y'all
So we
passed
have
in
a
19.
motion to accept the amendment after taking those 3 words out. Participation is voluntary.
That's fine.
Second.
Good. Second.
second,
All
okay.
those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
I apologize, I did not get
That's
that,
what-
and I wasn't sure what we were talking
So
about.
we're taking out what?
3 words. Participation is voluntary
Okay.
on the amendment. That's it. Everything else.
That makes it all mandatory.
Yeah. Number 50, order awarding contract establishing project fund for state aid project NOA SAP 24 for construction engineer to low bidder Huey Stockstill in the amount of $2,200,366.20 as recommended by Doug Rackley. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion, is this
What road?
This is state aid
State
funds.
aid funds.
We've already
Tradition,
approved
Fire
the
Tower, and
roads.
County Farm, is that the 3 roads we're
Yes,
talking
ma'am.
about?
Veterans, you said veterans, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Fire
veterans,
Tower,
Fire Tower,
and County
County
Farm.
Farm Road. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Are y'all good with that?
Traditions, are you aware that there are live springs under there? I just want to make you aware, there's live springs underneath the road, and there's also, there's
Turtles.
been,
Oh,
yeah, and there's been, they had to do extra work on the side to keep that, I think they put in front, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Sock pipe?
We put in that
Sock pipe?
trench drain, yes. Mhm.
Yes, I
Sure.
just wanted you to
Yes, ma'am.
remember that.
On this project, we're milling and overlaying, so
Okay.
we're not gonna get into digging up the pipes.
Okay, so the spring, and what you gonna do about the springs?
They
They're
do.
not
They're not going that far down.
The pipes will remain in place.
Stop those springs up, no, I'm just kidding, thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Item 51, go ahead.
Ma'am, sorry for the interruption. I would like to explore the possibility of extending this project a little bit. We got a great asphalt price. Minch Avenue could use overlay. I was going to recommend it for next year's overlay project, but if we can go ahead and include it on this, I'd love to.
That's from where? From the interstate?
From
to-
the interstate south, just a little bit past Quakestill.
Yeah.
And then, intersection of, we also intersect on Fire Tower to take that road up to, Vidalia to the intersection in front of Nico's.
And that would all be state aid money?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Mhm.
fine, as long as it's their money.
Do
And
we
how
have a
long,
motion to amend
I
to
do.
include that?
Second.
I'm gonna pursue it if the contractor, try to pursue it. Yes, ma'am.
discussion, how long will that delay everything else?
We're not delaying anything.
Okay,
No, this is in addition to, it won't slow
you
anything.
don't have to go to the state and get approval and all that.
I'll have to get approval, yes, and get y'all's approval on the change order and whatnot, you know, what we're anticipating, but it will not back this project up at all.
Okay,
No,
Perfect.
ma'am. If it did, I would say let's do it next year.
okay.
All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Item 52, order authorizing Doug Rathley, state aid engineer, to act as agent regarding permitting process through the Department of Marine Resource for bridge replacement on Discovery Bay Drive. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Reluctantly, second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. All those
Waste of money.
opposed, motion carries. Item 52, order adjudicating the tax sales of August 25th, 2014 and 2015. Huh? Tax parcel number 1410K03027002 for 2013 and 2014 taxes were erroneous and thus void ab initio. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
This is a piece of property that's owned by CTA, which is exempt, but they lease it. The tax bill got sent to CTA and not to the lessor, so they didn't pay their taxes for. Number 53 is the same. It is an error of assessment.
Okay, explain that again now. So CTA
property-
owns this property and they lease it to who?
They lease it to a restaurant.
And who's not paying the taxes?
Nobody paid them because CTA got the bill instead of the lessor. The lessor didn't know it. When they found out, they agreed to pay their taxes. The tax sale would be void because it actually sold the property itself, which is owned by CTA, and not the lease itself. So it was an invalid tax sale just because of that. It's just that it's an error that occurs often because they don't recognize the way the system's set up. It sends it to the property owner and taxpayer.
Kind of like the
I cannot
airport.
understand
Yeah, a
why,
little bit.
when CTA received that tax bill, they didn't
Well,
check
they
that
did.
out
Kinda like the
and
airport.
then send it to the appropriate, they know they have the lease.
They know they're exempt, and so if somebody
They
throws it
don't,
in the
they don't,
trash.
they don't think about it being a
Yeah.
leased property.
All those in favor signify by
There's a
aye.
second.
Who's second? Kent. Item 53, order adjudicating the tax sale of August 29, 2016, and August 28, 2017, and 2018, and 2019, and 2020, and 2021 on tax parcel number 1410K03027002. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
That's the same thing.
Same thing, CTA. All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Item 54, order acknowledging receipt of the appraisal prepared by Allen Purvis of lands situated in and being a part of Section 11, Township 5 in the West First Judicial District of Harrison County, adjudicating the offer of appraised value to the property owner to acquire right-of-way for improvements to the McHenry Road Bridge. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Item 55, order authorizing subordination of deed of trust from grantors James Dennis and Betty Sue Dennis to Harrison County Home Consortium. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second discussion. Tim, what do they do, pay us off with
No,
that?
this was a lady that, and a husband that got one of those first-time homeowner grants, $30,000. Over 10 years, the amount gets reduced to zero. That she's trying to refinance her first mortgage that she had at the time to get a lower interest rate. In order to do that, that mortgage company requires the county to subordinate its mortgage to them. It doesn't change the county position at all. It just that you're second to the mortgage that's replacing the first mortgage that the county's second to. She's got about 5 years left on the forgiveness. Her husband has died since then.
From us.
Is that the same thing that City of Gulfport was doing for a while?
Yes, it was Gulfport.
So they can, okay, so they can do the same thing, they can subordinate the.
No, they
mortgage and that.
don't. Even though the city of Gulfport was administering the program, the funds were paid through the county.
Oh, that's good to know, because I've had a couple people,
Right.
the interest rates have gotten so low that a lot of those people
Yeah, and all they gotta do is let this lady,
write a letter.
fortunately for this lady, her daughter is some type of mortgage lady, so she knew how to do it.
Okay.
Most people probably don't.
Yeah, that's probably.
It's really easy to do, they just gotta support.
Gotta do it.
And she did, she just tried to support.
But our right, as far as the deed of trust, is still protected.
Right, all it does is it's second to the mortgage that's there now.
Yeah.
That mortgage will refinance. And if we did not subordinate, then our mortgage would come first and theirs would be second, then they wouldn't loan her the money.
They wouldn't.
But then they would, she wouldn't be able to get
Right.
refinanced.
Right.
So all it does is put the county in the same position it is now.
Yeah.
All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Item 56, order approving amendment to the MOU dated September 10th, 2014 with the Mississippi Development Authority Mississippi Department of Transportation, State and Division, and Harrison County, Mississippi, authorize the board president to sign the same. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Item 57, resolution of the Board of Supervisors, Harrison County, determining the necessity for and invoking the authority granted to municipalities and counties of the legislature with respect to the TIF as set forth in Chapter 45 for the financing plan West Pass Station Project Pasquis Jan is eligible for a TIF. Please give me a motion so somebody can explain this.
Second.
I hope you can explain this.
This resolution is the first of, all you're doing is you're authorizing setting a public hearing for November 1st. You're authorizing the clerk to advertise for the public hearing one time at least 10 days before the hearing, not more than 20. That's all you're doing today. We'll be back before you on the 1st. We'll talk about the project, and then your second agenda item will be authorizing the plan. The city will be adopting the plan tomorrow night. It's on their agenda, so they're a little ahead of you, but this is what we talked to you about when I came before you.
Just for future reference, I don't know if Tim or Brittany did this, but that setting the public hearings, the last thing on here, maybe we could start with that.
And if it makes you feel good, I had the exact same conversation with the claims docket in 2000 as mayor, because I had to sign all those.
Yeah.
And I think if you have no personal awareness of what's wrong and you're relying on professionals to present, and you have errors and omissions insurance, I think you're okay.
It's called errands and.
It does look bad, but
Because
there's not a real
I talked to
answer
those
to
guys
it.
in Stone County, and I've talked to some of my constituents.
So that's a terrible story.
And what they read was that those supervisors did something wrong, even though they did not. But that's.
I
what
concur with that, but I'm just saying, in real terms, I don't think they'll have that liability ultimately. Otherwise, nobody would be in the
That's for
office.
DNO, it's not for the company.
There were several levels there that should have caught that.
So all those in favor for the setting the public hearing? All those opposed, motion carries.
Yeah, see you on the 1st.
Okay, sorry you had to sit so long.
That's okay, I enjoyed it.
Did 58, item 59, order approving the transfer of $1,000 from 002-900-950 to be used for a Halloween celebration on October 29th, and Thanksgiving and a Christmas luncheon for Wool Market Prime of Life Center. Do we have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Item 60, order approving the transfer of $2,000 to be used for community Halloween bash at the Isaiah Fredericks Community Center. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any
How mine's cheaper than
discussion?
yours?
All those in favor signify by aye.
Kent,
All those opposed?
I don't know.
I'm picking on
Motion
you.
carries. Item 61, order adjudicating, authorizing expenditures as listed, necessary to advertise the opportunities and resources of Harrison County. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. We have one addendum, order approving payment of $9,190.42 to Alta Planning and Design professional services for the Active Living Initiative service period August 1st through August 30th, payable from 312-540-555, authorizing interfund loan if needed until reimbursement is received. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Do we really expect to get reimbursed? So far, I've seen nothing on it.
I've been working with Karen on everything.
Do we even have a letter that says they might reimburse us? Or are we just going on good faith?
Well, if you give me a copy of that, I'll get with everybody.
It's just a copy of the deal. All right, all those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Okay, Mr. Hallman, you got anything?
Yes, unfortunately, we do. Not unfortunately, we have the board had previously discussed buying the parking lot with Community Bank. They called this morning and are ready to proceed with that. And if the board wants to discuss it, it qualifies for executive session.
What's it for?
The Community Bank parking lot that the board may want to discuss in executive session.
Why would we want to do that?
It may involve some discussions about the value and the other matters.
But we have an appraisal that we got,
I understand.
which is less
You
than
may
what
want
they
to
sell it for. I I don't like going into executive
Okay,
session.
I mean, it's up to you. I just didn't want to point out about the appraisal and the public meeting.
I'm fine with the public meeting. Y'all okay with it?
That's your decision, not mine. I don't get to make that decision.
Okay, she says no, so.
We have a
Alright,
price, so they're ready to proceed,
I
I
have
guess is
something.
what.
I'm ready to proceed.
Executive
Okay, so that's one.
Well, I am, you brought up the issue, I'd like to hear about it, whether it's in executive session or public. It doesn't make me any difference either. That's-
Well, to me, it'd be prudent to discuss the issue of the appraisal versus the price in executive session, but that's up to the board, not to me.
I would suggest then maybe we go in executive
I'd
session.
agree.
Okay, okay, but hold on, let's go around the room real
Yeah.
quick. You got anything?
No.
Something else, Tricia?
You got anything? John,
Oh,
John?
Highlands.
Huh?
We have an issue with the Highlands that probably would be potential litigation, and that needs to be discussed and bring y'all up to date on the meeting they recently had for the Gulfport Highlands grant. That also qualifies for executive session.
I just don't like that. Okay, Mr. Jones?
I'll have that.
Yes, I would like to know if the board can, allow the VA groundbreaking, at the traditions area to borrow, the tent and some chairs.
What tent, what chairs?
Huh?
I didn't hear you, I'm
There's a
sorry.
tent at District 5, and there's also some, and that we borrowed their chairs as well. It's a groundbreaking for the veterans home.
Oh,
I have to find that, I just had it in my hand. It's
And
gonna
what are
be
we
the
doing?
13th this month.
Loaning them some equipment.
okay.
Tent and chairs.
10 chairs. And, do you have a motion? I'll make that motion.
There's a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
Okay, and then I've been in discussion with some people from the, with our engineer and also the, utility authority concerning a regional sewer pump. It seems that, we are growing exponentially in District 5, and we are in lack of, we have the pipes, but I'll, let my,
Now, why couldn't we just put this on a regular discussion item under county engineer?
Well,
Did this
What I-
all of a sudden
What I was gonna
come up?
suggest is that we're already preparing an item for next week to present that and other high priority projects, and so if that works, you'll have a lot more details next week on that.
Is this gonna be
Oh,
the, money?
Right, you had
Yes,
asked to
for
put that
summer.
project list together for the highest infrastructure priority list,
Yeah,
and that project would be in the top one or two.
yeah.
And so we've already got an agenda item for next week for that.
Okay,
Perfect.
thank you.
Okay. Ms.
Madam
Bowers?
President,
I'm
could,
sorry.
if you don't mind, can you come back to
Sure,
me?
sorry.
In reference to the providing the pipe for Magnolia, do we need to spread that on the minutes, Tim?
There,
Yes.
That's with the pipe that we're gonna provide for.
I should have that agreement back today, I think, signed, so we can put it on the agenda for next week.
Monday?
I drafted an agreement for Jackie to get signed and presented to when she
Okay,
gets it
so we can
signed.
do that next Monday?
Should.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Powers?
Really only one thing, I think it was brought to my attention that Jean Fayard, our mosquito control director, we voted that we would kind of increase pay to put in line with other directors, and I think his is not. I'd like to just look into that, his pay, and see if it was increased to be in line with other directors. That's all I have. If you
Okay.
could look
Pam?
into that for me, thank you.
Ms. Pam, you got anything?
No, just the highlights that
Okay.
you talked about.
Anybody else? Okay, so we need a motion to go into closed session to discuss the need to go into executive session. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Do we have a motion to go into executive session to discuss Highlands and Community Bank?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I didn't have anything to.
Oh, I said, I looked at you.
Said anybody.
I said anybody else, you just weren't looking at me.
Just for the record, the Highlands is a matter of potential litigation.
Yeah.
And qualifies for executive session. The community bank property is a negotiation purchase of property which qualifies for executive session.
Okay, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
Motion. Motion.
Further discussion
Board, during the course of
report.
executive session, the board discussed the matter of purchasing property from the community bank in Biloxi across the courthouse. No action was taken, and then we discussed the Highlands issue, which is a matter of potential litigation, no action was taken.
Just that part of the tourism thing, it's, keep it up. That's what I told the guy. Keep it up, keep the heat on out there, keep it up. What's gonna happen is one day the Board of Supervisors of Harrison County gonna make a motion to get out of it and do our own business. And as soon as we make that motion, the legislature's gonna give us that authority to go back. Mark my word.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
But it's just
Go
Mark
ahead.
Henderson and Ricky Matthews. That's the problem. You've got two dum-dums making all this noise.
Yeah, that don't
Oh, sorry.
understand.
Are we back in thing?
I think-
Whoops. I'm just
That's
saying,
not
you have
this.
only a few. It's, I don't wanna punish everyone just because of a few misinformed people giving out wrong information. That's my point.
The example is sort of like I sit here and I keep poking Ken on the chest, and he, to aggravate him, and he gonna poke me back, and that's what's gonna happen to them. They're gonna lose their regional concept that they all want.
I think that was, you're talking in terms of being on the offense, that's the offense. We sat back and just let them keep punching, and then we come out and say, we wanna go back to just being in Harrison County.
That's
a
what they're gonna
knockout-
push us
That's
to.
a knockout blow.
Well, we're out of
That's what they-
We don't have to
executive
say, we
session,
don't have
so
to keep responding back to the
That's
nonsense.
what I warned them about.
Right.
Go ahead, keep doing it, and you're gonna lose what you got now.
Do we, I'm sorry, but Mr. Holman, there was some action?
No, we didn't take action, we need to take it now.
Okay, so I need a motion right now to
Okay.
proceed with the purchase of the property from Community Bank to be used for much needed parking for the Biloxi Courthouse.
Authorize the board president to sign any necessary documents to proceed with that closing.
I so moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
And I'll do the second one. I wrote it down. I'd like to make a motion to authorize, what we're gonna talk about, the
Do we
letters.
need, I don't think you really need to have
Okay.
authorization to that, just so for the record, what Ms. Powers is talking about, we're gonna send a letter to Compass to get their employees on Highlands, and also a letter to, what's the name of the company? Gulfport Highlands, LLC, to put them on notice of our whole harmless indemnification agreement. I'll be happy to grant that.
I'll make a motion. Now, do we have a motion for anything tourism related?
Not yet, but it's coming, it's brewing.
Uh,
We got the tea in the, got the bag in the hot
Don't y'all-
water.
you said something about
Bags in the
press
water.
release? Did
Yeah,
you-
but she's gonna send it to us first.
Before we-
Yeah, sure.
act on it, before we act, so
Yes.
we can act on that Monday.
Okay.
Okay, with no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Do we have a second? Any discussion? Happy
been lovely.
cruising. Happy
It's
cruising.
been lovely.
I'll tell you something, there's more people here than there have been yesterday.